What is up, my favorite people? Welcome back to Memes and Markets. Keith, how are you, man?
Today's the best day of my life, Ben. How are you?
Today is bloody fantastic. We've got a legend in the house with us. Casey, how are you, man?
Doing well, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, of course. Keith, do you have an intro ready? Or should we throw it over to him to give the intro? What are you thinking? What are you thinking?
Right now, look, I think today Casey would love for you to give us a brief intro to yourself.
Sure thing. I guess I'll start with kind of high school / college me, which was really into like the macroeconomics type side of things. So I know that aligns a lot with what you guys are doing, looking into markets and everything. I kind of found that in high school and in college, as I was like really going down all these rabbit holes and everything, I was like also experiencing just a lot of physical distress. So I really had like this nagging chronic back pain and stuff and depression among other things, which I was kind of fighting through. So late college, I kind of had to pivot and focus more on like health. So I guess that kind of leads me into like more of the recent stage of life, which was um, really just kind of reclaiming my life back into my hands because I was just, although I was um, trying going to the gym, like trying to eat healthy, like just ultimately kind of suffering as a result of um, what I felt like was kind of being lied to a lot by society. And um, that ultimately kind of led me down a really long path of studying nutrition, studying fitness. And now, after having kind of reclaimed my health back a little bit, I'm kind of now entering back into trying to like investigate finance and macroeconomics and culture and stuff. So I was telling Keith before this how like I actually having started looking into crypto a little bit is kind of what led me to find your guys' podcast with Jake Klaver, which was awesome. Um, and yeah, funny enough, Ben hit me up like shortly after. I was like, dude, that's crazy. Like just out of the blue, wasn't really expecting it, but happy to be here.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, I'm already curious from hearing that when you went on this exploration phase to try to solve your own problems, because I had a similar path. My thing was physical injuries that I had and then botched surgeries that I had, which then forced me to learn more than I ever wanted to know about the healthcare system, how that operates, how things get innovated upon, and all that stuff. So I'd love to hear about what you learned during that path and what took you there.
Yeah, I want to like kind of start with something that I was thinking yesterday, which is there's what I've found is like when I gain these insights, they feel so simple to the point where like when I explain it to somebody, they almost like disbelieve me. So, for example, like I had the chronic back pain thing for like 6 years. I even got like the MRI and got the diagnosis. They're like, dude, you have a degenerative spine disease. Like this is either genetic or you get it when you're old. And I was like, well, I'm neither of those things. So like, am I screwed? And that's kind of how I identified with the diagnosis. Like, I think I just did a reel on this on my fitness page, like maybe a couple days ago, how when we identify with these, diagnoses or even like these negative characteristic traits that we see in ourselves, when we identify with them, it like becomes even more manifest. So it's a long-winded answer, but the reason I bring this up is because like when when I look back at it now, I'm like, I believe that it's possible my pain was some sort of like psychosomatic pain where I had to do a lot of like self investigation. on top of like the nutrition and on top of the yoga, on top of the unconventional lifts and everything. But like that's the piece that's hard for me to like explain to people. The psychosomatics, right? Like how you talk to yourself, how you think to yourself. I believe that's what can actually heal you more than the other pieces.
I don't think that's crazy at all, man. I think that I had a similar epiphany when I was going through on to surgery 5, and I realized that, like, I was attaching so much of my identity to the guy who had these injuries, right? So it's like, if that's such a massive part of me, like, how would I ever be able to let that go if that's what I'm saying is me, right? So
Yeah,
I think
what surgeries?
I've had 5 knee surgeries. I had, like, before I was 27. So I had 4 on my left knee, 1 on my right, and so I've spent accumulatively, like, a year and a half, close to 2 years on crutches across those different surgeries, so that was a very mentally debilitating process, that I went on a journey a lot like you did, where you don't you especially as an athlete, which I'm sure you were, like, when you experience pain, it hits you to a different level because so much of your identity was wrapped up in the thing that you can't do anymore, which was just such a crazy mental experience that I went through. And then also, to add insult to injury, was that I was in Canada. So there's people talk about the Canadian healthcare system a lot because there's some great things to it. Like, if you're about to die, one of the best places to be in the world, because you won't have to pay for whatever they do to keep you alive. But if it's like an optional, what they consider optional procedure, you've got to jump through a lot of hoops, a lot of lines, and a lot of not the best options to, like, try to get things dealt with. And when I got my first surgery, I just didn't know all those things. So my first surgery was just done horribly, and then that set me up for all this journey, basically.
Bummer. Yeah, that's tough. I recall like so I mentioned how like some of my physical pain became manifest in high school, which I think some of that was due to like mental issues I had. But I remember like a similar experience where I think it was eighth grade where I fractured my hip and I was like in a wheelchair for like a decent amount of the year. Like, dude, that's just it's no fun. Crutches in your case, like I don't know. It really it's difficult for younger folk, especially who that is their identity, like you said. Like I think we do kind of find our identity through the things that we do.
Oh, 100%. And for me, it was really the only thing that had brought me, like, joy and, like, a lot of connection in my life too, that had come from the fact that I did sports, right? And so now so many of my friends that I knew I just didn't have access to anymore because they'd always be going to do things. So uh it's definitely a crazy thing. Tio says, "Ben could have gone D1 if I wasn't for that damn knee." No, definitely not. Definitely, actually, a bad D1 school I definitely could have done. But, yeah, so it's definitely crazy, crazy thing. So what were the biggest lessons, Casey, in terms of, like, how did you even get to a place where you thought that it could be how you're talking to yourself, and how thoughts manifest themselves into reality? Like, how did you even get there?
Yeah, I kind of have no shame in saying this, but I know it's a little bit of a sensitive topic, but like I kind of went down which I don't prescribe to anybody else, but like I kind of experimented with certain um, psychedelic stuff, kind of exploring my own mind. And honestly, what I found after going through that period of time, which I would call a phase, is that I kind of had built a defense mechanism of an ego. And so I kind of had to almost disassociate with the version of myself that I had built, which required almost like radical honesty with myself. And most importantly, like this word I'm about to say, I believe is at the crux of so many like psychosomatic issues, which is forgiveness. Like having to forgive myself, having to forgive others was really, really hard for me because we honestly like just we lie to ourselves throughout so much of our lives without even like consciously recognizing it. And that's really hard to find. Um, there's like, I mean, there's many ways to find it. Like I mentioned, I don't prescribe psychedelics and that type of thing. Find a therapist. Yoga is another one. I've had insane insights through yoga, which is very like new agey, but like it's forgiveness. Like that's kind of to answer your question in a weird way, like forgiving myself because I would say like two things I've really struggled with throughout my life have been doubt and have been guilt. So like for anybody who might be struggling with that, it's possible that like you might need to forgive others, forgive yourself, but it's hard.
I would love to explore that more if you're open to it, because I would say also that's something that I struggled with for a long period of time, was forgiving myself for things that had happened, and then also one thing that I struggled with for a long time was also forgiving others. And once something had happened, like holding on to that for a very long period of time, which then enforced pain upon me. But how did you like? I would love to pull that if there's anything that you can think of.
Yeah, how I like grappled with that after the realization.
Yeah, and even did the realization come to you during like a psychedelic experience, or what brought you there in the first
Yeah, I
place?
mean, like honestly, I mentioned how I was. So we can tie things in here. So like when I was getting into like the macroeconomics and the finance, that was one stage of my life where I kind of started identifying as a bit of a conspiracy theorist, if you will. Not to discredit myself, just like finding out that it feels like a lot of this world is built on lies. On top of that is when I started finding out that like a lot of the ways in which I talk to myself are full of lies. Then getting into the nutrition stuff, it's like I feel like a lot of what I've been taught has been full of lies.
When you say you
So
talk to yourself with lies, could you explain what that would look like?
yeah, I think in one sense, like a lie can be very covert. So like, I think we oftentimes suppress like feelings of guilt, which like let me give an example. Like when we feel feelings of grief, we need to like grieve it out, right? Like you're not if you experience the loss of a loved one, which like for this is one example for me, like there was a time when I felt responsible for like the death of my family's dog, which was kind of, it's a thing that happened. And that's something I like kind of had to suppress for a while. Well, didn't have to, but that was my nature. That's what I did, like knee jerk reaction. And that was something I needed to grieve about. After like there came a long period of time where I was like, oh, I actually just never really like was honest with myself and forgave myself for that. Um, but grief is a tough one too. Like the way I always explain it is the way I think grief is supposed to work is like right after that, whether it be a traumatic event or something else happens, it's almost like you have a severe low tide. Then after you grieve it out, you have that high tide. Then you have another experience of low tide, but it's not as deep. And soon enough, it kind of levels out because you were able to grieve through it. But like if you're not grieving through it, or like whatever these other characteristic traits you're suffering from might be, like if you're not processing them efficiently, being honest with yourself, which is really important, that's going to kind of cause a negative baseline. And that might actually manifest in the form of like, whether it be like bad action in the future, I guess, to put it simply. But I don't know, kind of ranting.
I'm sitting here thinking about how, like, I was talking to someone about having a pet, and Ben, we've talked about this, I think, before as well on the pod. Um, I'm having troubles. I haven't had any health problems in my life ever. I have had very, very few instances of anyone near me passing and or having to go through grief. And so I'm just listening. um, but I talked to Ben about pets before because, and I was talking to a friend about this very recently because I think it's a great thing for, like, I would only have a pet when I had a kid, and I would want the kid to experience, right, the grief of losing a pet at some point in their life, making sure that they've experienced something like that so that they don't go through life not having that. And then whenever it happens, no, it's something much bigger than that, which, you know, I've been preparing myself my entire life because I know that I haven't experienced that. And so I'm just always like, that's going to be tough, and thinking
No,
about it.
it's like, yeah, what you just said is like something that I've thought about a lot as well, which is like we're all going to experience what it feels like to lose a parent, lose a pet, like this type of thing. Um, but yeah, I mean, I resonate a lot with what you're saying too. Like I think it's really humbling when you see someone close to you lose, experience loss, because that's just like the most, I think loss is like one of the most grounding things as well, in life. But Also, it's beautiful in its own way. Like anything that is beautiful in life is a tragedy. Like if you had access to love something for your whole life, it wouldn't be the same type of love that we have, knowing that like everything fades, everything is entropy, right? But that's what's beautiful about it. Like you don't want to become kind of doom and gloom about it. It's very beautiful.
Definitely. Yeah, and Keith, it's fascinating that you have, like, thought through that. Do you know what I mean? And, like, because that is a thing, and I was fortunate where I had a lot of animals around me, so I definitely dealt with that. I was pretty lucky where I hadn't lost anyone close to me until I was about, like, 19, and one of my good friends passed away who was really, really young, so that was super difficult. That was definitely, like, way harder than any of the animals, but the animals going probably did prepare me for what that would loosely feel like, and then also, much like Casey had said, how it's not a linear progress towards feeling normal-ish again, it's a up and down kinda thing, so that's super super interesting to even think about, and Keith, I'm glad that you've even thought about that. That's why I love talking to you, man, because you think about everything.
Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse. Um, yeah, I think the thing that I was always confronted with was in dreams, I guess, it was like, okay, that's very traumatizing what I felt in this like nightmare that I had. But that's the closest I've ever come to having to deal with that actual kind of a thing, like someone super, super close. And so I've just always thought to myself, well, first off, I use that as an opportunity to be grateful and to practice gratitude every
Mhm.
single day.
That
Right.
that's big.
But then other than that, it's like, well, I do know that
That
it
will come.
is inevitably going to come. So
Casey, I'd
Vitamin
love
G.
sorry, you got a
You
point?
got to get the vitamin G. Gratitude.
That's it, man. That's it. So you mentioned the whole, um, forgiving yourself for, the losing of your dog, and so I had a situation where my friend had passed away, and I was supposed to see him uh, like a few days after he had passed, and I could have seen him a few days before he had passed, but I'm like, "Oh, I'll see you in a few days," and then I never got the opportunity to see him again. So I carried a lot of that guilt with me too of, like, I know I couldn't have stopped it, but I could have seen him before that had happened, and so I carried that around with me for a very long time. How did you go about forgiving yourself, or what does that even look like or feel like for what you were still carrying?
I think it was one in the form of grief is the only way I could forgive myself, but there was nothing I could have done. Like I mean, there were things that I could have done, right? Very clearly, but it's like it's the way it happened with my dog was just a freak accident. I guess we might as well get into it like a little bit more. She was taken by a coyote because I had like left her outside by accident, which we bring them back in, and then I found her like she somehow escaped. Basically, like yeah, she didn't make it. But for me, it was like it was having to recognize that like although I could have done something, dwelling on like the could have, should haves only makes it worse, right? And forgiving myself for what really was kind of a more of like a trivial it was a complete accident, right? And even like all my loved ones completely were like, yeah, it's absolutely an accident, not your fault. But I mean, there's like other ways of like guilt and doubt, which I've struggled with in my life. Like that's just one example that kind of came to mind. But I think that's the main thing I would recommend for anybody is like, please don't suppress it. Like, please wrestle with it, um, process it, because otherwise that's living inside of you in some sort of subconscious. And like that's actually going to manifest in future relationships. It's going to manifest in anything. It needs to be processed. Um, I don't really know how else to
So
explain it other
fair.
than that, but
The doubt piece, I think that's something that people struggle with a lot, especially now because of comparison. Like so many people, their stakes are so high to try anything, at least from their perception. So was that something that you struggled with your whole life, or was there an event that created
no.
that feeling?
Well, that's actually something I've really been grappling with in my later stages of life is doubt because I became a bit of conspiracy theorist, found out, a lot of these lies. You made a post recently, Ben, about the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Mhm.
So like I went down this whole like health rabbit hole, right? I got really in depth into like the nutrition piece, especially. And I've actually tried like almost every single diet. I've tried carnivore, I've tried vegan, I've tried standard American diet, pro metabolic, keto. I all these other random ones. But anyways, like what I found is like I was actually the person who was like hoping to like grasp onto like one of these new ideologies or dogmas for myself. That was like a whole phase of my life. And it's like, dude, I Dunning-Krugered myself so hard, but like in the best way possible. Like it was almost like another identity crisis. Like after I was like rebuilding my whole identity on top of like betterment and like health, it's like I Dunning-Krugered myself so hard, and it's like, oh, okay, like you guys know the Socrates saying, like I know enough that I know nothing, right? It's like a sign of intelligence, and that's the whole concept of Dunning-Kruger. So that, as a result, kind of made me a guy who suffers with doubt, though. We talked already a little bit about how we identify with certain characteristics almost makes them more manifest. So like I do think there's also like a form of like you can actually like use certain characteristics, you can wield them appropriately and like use them advantageously. So like I try to use my doubt advantageously. At least that's currently how I'm trying to wield it. But my middle name is Thomas, which if you guys are familiar with like the doubting Thomas, like it's almost like I don't want to identify it as like a curse or anything, but it's like, dude, my middle name's Thomas. Like the whole doubting Thomas thing, like I've found myself to just really struggle with this doubt thing so much like the last couple of years. But I'm honestly like enjoying the doubt a little bit because let me give another example. Like we are so impressionable when we're scrolling. And let's be real, like a lot of what people are learning is short form content when they're in that really like what do you call it, default mode brain, like super impressionable, right? That's really important to have like skepticism, discernment, and doubt, especially when you are consuming content.
Without a doubt. I think that's something we talk about on the show all the time, and I think we're still early on people realizing how much that's impacted society and how much that's been weaponized by a lot of people, but if you're open to it, I'd love to explore, like, the the doubt piece. Like, what is it that you doubt about yourself, if you're open sharing? If not, we can move on to the next thing.
Okay, so that's an interesting question because I will say, as I don't struggle as much. I do struggle with some pieces of doubt in myself, but I would say mostly it's like doubt in the world,
Got it.
doubt in authority, doubt in institutions, doubt in a lot of elders, and that's the piece that I struggle with a little bit more.
So is it more
Um,
like doomerism for the state of the world then? Is that what you mean?
Yes, like I will say I've always been a little bit not jealous, but like I almost admire like people who have that limitless belief. There's something very like admirable to me about that. Like there's just some people who have that. These are kind of the manifestation types. Like I'm not quite that type. I'm more of like I don't know if it's called a realist or something, but like yeah, I
Interesting. Yeah, I would definitely consider myself an optimist, I would say. Keith, what would you consider yourself as?
Um, I, I think I'm. So I was just gonna say that's what I admire about Ben is that he's got that just like gonna make it happen kind of attitude, and I need that, right? Because um, yeah, like I guess I'm probably more realist as well in terms of like I'll look at whatever evidence I have for whatever is going on, and then that kind of becomes my reality. But um, none of like, but at the same time, I know that I also have a very delusional level of belief too, and so but Ben is like forcing me to do that on a daily basis, and whenever that like doubt comes into my head, I'm just like I hear Ben and I'm like, oh no, there's no way that I'm gonna let that like influence my actions.
But when you
That's
meet people.
awesome. You're the product of the 5 people you surround yourself with, and, like, it's so important to have friends like Ben who, like, are that piece of yourself. You literally said you hear Ben in the back of your mind, like, that's so true. That's how it works.
Totally, man. And
Totally.
when you get to talk to people like you two, like, it's impossible to not be optimistic as hell, right? Because it's like, as much as you're saying, Casey, that we have all these doubts for these establishments and all these things, it's like, I agree, so much stuff is broken, but I also believe we can fix it, right? Because
Yeah.
like, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I that's one thing that I'm trying to not come off as on social media, especially on like the culture macro econ page that I have, which is like I don't want people to look at me as the doom and gloom guy, because the reality is like I'm almost kind of laughing like at how absurd, like I'm literally just laughing through the absurdity of it all.
Hmm.
I'm not the doom and gloom guy, even though like the reality of what we're dealing with
It's crazy.
very much come off that way. And I think what it comes down to is like, are you actually like putting in the work
Yes.
behind the scenes? Like, are you confident in yourself? Like, I think a lot of people like are not ready to live fully. Like, I think when you're living fully, it's almost like, I can be removed from this world at any time, and I'm happy like with who I decided to be and like what I wanted to achieve. I don't know.
What does living fully mean to you?
First and foremost, honesty. I think I was writing something about this maybe a day or two ago, but I think a lot of people they have this really abstract idea of like what a purpose is. Maybe it's like a family, right? Or like a home. But the problem is they don't um in the really small daily actions, it's causing them so much more misery than alignment. Like alignment is everything. Um, there was another thing I was gonna say. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts? Like, what are your thoughts on that, though?
Was super curious to hear your perspective. If it comes back, definitely please do
Oh,
share. But you got it. Go
sorry,
for it.
just came to me. But like, that's another thing is like, I really believe that it's the small things that are so much harder than the big things. Like walking granny across the street can be a lot harder than like running a marathon even. Like I really do believe that because they're the easiest things to talk ourselves out of. So I think when you have that change of heart, it manifests in the small things, and that's kind of a sign that you actually are living in more alignment with whether it be a higher version of yourself, your purpose, however you want to name it. But sorry, I cut you off.
No, never apologize. It's all good, man. But yeah, I would say a lot of the same things, right? Like, I think part of it comes from believing that you do put a dent in the world in some small way, shape, or form. And I think that like a lot of people don't think that they can, right? I think there's a lot of people who are in that doomer state where they're like, I can't do anything. So what's the point? I'm just going to be like everyone else. And when they go online or they spend too much time online, most communities are quite toxic. And so they're just like, okay, this is how people are right now. And that was never really something I was willing to accept because I know I'm not like that. And so if I know I'm not like that, there has to be a ton of other people that aren't like that too. So
Yeah.
that's something that I think about. And I also think about the people who have like changed me, right? Who I know that I wouldn't be who I am today if not for certain people stepping up or like going out of their way and do something they don't have to. And so if there's ever anyone that's been like that in your life, like you can be like that for anybody you ever come across ever. And so it's like it does that instantly gives you purpose because it doesn't have to be huge. You could be the guy who makes someone's like face light up when you walk past them. And that seems so insignificant, but with how depressed everyone is, like that's huge. And like he's so good at that too. Whenever he comes across someone, like you see, they smile after because he screws with them a little bit. He jokes around, and people don't really get that very often. So I think there's a lot of things that we can do to change things really fast. And that's also a big reason why we built No Dice the way that we did was because of these small little things that can change how you see yourself and see the world too. But I'd love to hear your thoughts, Keith, on all that.
No, I mean that's right on. I got this this reel from someone just on like the whole like doubt thing that I wanted to bring up from some for you guys because I thought it was really good and it was super inspiring. And first thing that I woke up to this morning was this right here from Busta Rhymes.
Pursuing your destiny, when you identify with your destiny, you have to be selfish, you have to be maniacal, you have to be uncompromising. And you have to move in a way when it comes to those three things, when you function completely in a way where it's an unwavering faith. Like, it don't matter how fucked up that shit might look. It don't matter how much it feel like it ain't gonna work.
Delusional.
Complete delusion. You got to believe the delusion. Because it's only delusional until it works. So is it really delusional?
I love that, man.
Yeah.
Delusion
Delusion maxing all the way.
I like that.
Because it's true. It's like when you think about anybody, right, who did anything of significance or who accomplished the things that you want to accomplish with your life, either they didn't think about it at all and were just doing stuff. There's one way. Some people are just like that, or they just delusionally believe that they could pull it off at some point. And it's really the only mindset that leads to that outcome, right?
I also hate how it's become like cringe to actually try. Do you know what I mean? Like we've reached a point. Go ahead, Casey.
We're in a trying crisis. People are just not trying. And what I believe is like at the crux of that is for people to try, we need to have incentives and rewards, right? Like there's the saying, show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome. Like if we're motivated by like things like wealth, which is a very common one, and there's not much wrong with that. It's like I think people are not trying because it's financially it's hard. Like and it seems hopeless. Like I think a lot of people are like, American dream's dead. We're not getting the same rewards that, you know, boomers and Gen X had. And I think as a result, people are like, what is the point in trying? This is why people are reverting to, what do you call it? Kalshi, and right. That's like the only form of like control they can actually exhibit, that they're like, oh, this actually isn't like if I'm betting on Kalshi, this is something where like I'm kind of in control of it. It's not rigged markets like the S&P. I think a lot of people actually see the world through that lens. They're like, it's hopeless. Like nothing's really working. Nothing's a guarantee. We're not getting the rewards, which is why people are reverting though to these like self-destructive behaviors.
Yeah, we see that all the time.
Yep. Yeah. It's tough because there's this, you've talked about this too, Casey, on some of your content, like this awakening, right, of things. There's different things like the actual conspiracies and whatnot that are like being allowed to propagate. Some of that around economics and like the systems that have been designed and like how they don't work for people, right? So you've talked about this in your own content, Casey. But so it's like if that permeates society, this idea of, oh, the entire system is rigged, which is true. But then the question becomes like, what do we do about it? And what the answer often is it's not clear at the very minimum. And then so what does that leave? It leaves there to be room for some other answer to come into the door. And I think, Ben, you were talking about this very recently, like people are like, you know, when people are like looking for someone to tell them what to do, like that's when this new sort of form of Messiah can come in, right? Especially when you also take religion out and you bash that and you take away all the things that typically hold people together in a society, and then you make it, if the laws don't work for you and they're meant to hold you back, then you don't have the law either. You don't have religion either. It's meant to hold you down and divide people and destroy. And then so what's next? Oh, well, I guess the only thing that you have left to believe in is yourself and whatever it is that you can do for yourself to like make money and try to make your situation better. And then, you know, gambling floats in and it's just the perfect answer to all of your problems. Where the other thing that I highlight in some of my content is like this search, especially for men, like to be right about something, or this like desire to monitor the situation. And like gambling is perfect for that, because you can act like there's some information arbitrage that exists when really the only information that's being arbitraged is whatever information these platforms have on you and your tendencies. But anyways.
No, dude, very well said. I just think people want that. They know how they feel is how they felt for a very long time. And they think that there's something that they haven't found that will jump them out of that. And they'll be able to escape all of this like feeling that they have, right? They think it can come from something external. But I promise the same person who's feeling depressed, if you won, you'd probably lose it very quickly, or you still wouldn't like your life even after you won. Like that's like where I got to a place, because I was fortunate where I was doing pretty well financially, a lot younger than a lot of people. And so I got to see firsthand, I'm like, oh, money actually doesn't matter that much. Right. Like it's like, of course it does once your basic needs are met. But I noticed that when I was making like a lot more than to cover my basic needs, I was not material, like there was nothing extra. Like yes, there was more money in the account, but like I didn't get anything additional benefit from that. And so that was definitely an enlightening experience where, and I'm actually grateful that I had all those injuries, because I was forced to like think through so many things. And I was pretty lucky as well that I was naturally a very introspective youth. So like I had done a lot of thinking throughout my whole experience, but you really get to see what's driving a lot of people when you have nothing else going on. It's like I was just sitting on my phone for like and my computer for years, right? So I couldn't I had FOMO for a little bit, but then I also got to see like why people were doing the things they were doing at like a deeper level, and I just got to see how many people were chasing. Like there's very few people that are there because they want to be there. They're being there because like they think they'll get some sort of admiration. And Keith, you had said that the point of people being so primed to want to be led. I think we've been groomed to believe that like we have to do that. I also think people like being led because then if it goes wrong, they're not to blame. Right. So like there's a lot of social risk for being the person who steps up, because look, every leader gets taken down eventually. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it's a lot easier to be part of the herd and just say like, okay, this is what we're doing. It's not my fault if it fails, kind of thing. And I think that's also very problematic, because I think everybody should be leading themselves. But if you look for external reasons to go somewhere, you didn't make those decisions, which I think is also a dangerous thing.
Most
Yeah.
certainly.
Well said. I mean, I think this whole like not being willing to try, and instead like outsourcing it or looking for that like permission from what everyone else is doing, from what the science says is best, rather than learning what serves you best, because like we're all so different. That's one thing I learned from all the experimenting with all the different diets, is like we have different genetics, we have different preferences. But I mean, this is the thing. Like what we're talking about is it's outsourcing. Like as soon as people are ready to take actionable steps, it's like, oh, let me outsource my intelligence to ChatGPT, right? Like let me outsource. Yeah, there's just so many ways to take the easy way out rather than actually learn like who you are and what serves you best. It's even with like relationships and stuff. Like people are not really getting into relationships like they once were. People are kind of reverting to things like pornography and whatever else. It's like this is another form of outsourcing, and it's like people are looking to looks maxing for status. Like there's all these different forms of outsourcing, which like once you see it, you can't really unsee it. It's almost like every angle of our society right now is just outsourcing, 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 not learning who we are. It's what it feels like to me, at least.
I would agree, man. And it's so funny because I've always been the guy where if I see someone and they love something and I'm like, you could be doing a lot more of this if you just adjust how you do it. And people like fight me when I do that all the time. It's
Yeah.
like they fight me for believing in them. I'm like, it's crazy to me. I've never understood, but it's obviously a societal pressure that has made them have this doubt that you're saying. And when I like approach them, and I'm like, no, you could totally do this. Oh,
I think we lost him a little bit, although he saw it before it happened. But one of the things that I wanted to dig in on with you, Casey, was one of the things that came in from your content, talking about this like great awakening thing, and how you feel like essentially the algorithms used to censor a little bit, and now things are getting through. I'm just going to play your short, and then we'll let you respond to it. How does that sound?
Cool.
Find this whole great awakening really suspicious. I can't be the only person who's realized a full 180 in the algorithm. Used to not be able to talk about Jeffrey Epstein, about what they did to us during COVID, about foreign countries buying out politicians, about chemtrails being sprayed in the sky, without being dismissed as a crazy conspiracy theorist, being flagged as misinformation, get your account banned. But suddenly now the algorithm is just forcing so much of this information out into the public to the point where I feel like this is perfectly orchestrated. Now, things like the Patriot Act, we already know the government is able to categorize us digitally into these profiles of, is this guy a potential threat to the country, or is this guy just an NPC bot who likes to exist in his blissful bubble of ignorance? But part of me feels like this is all really suspicious. Why do you guys think they are suddenly just creating this great awakening, allowing it to happen? Anybody else?
Great video.
Why do you guys think so? I'm still trying to figure it out.
There's so many angles that you could go down, and there could be more than one reason, or there could be multiple potential outcomes. But Keith and I discuss this often on the show, and even more so behind the scenes, like all the freaking time. Like most of our messages are about crap like this. So that's why when I saw that, I sent it to Keith pretty well right away, and I was like, "See, there's more people out there thinking." But I think that the term reset is another one that has been thrown around so much online, and randomly, like that kind of content has been getting thrust into the mainstream, where it almost seems like they're priming us to accept some sort of radical change. I obviously think it's going to be some sort of financial system change, and there's so many different ways that you could go. Like, there's one theory that I have in terms of, like, whoever runs the system, the world, whatever, they knew that this was eventually shit was going to hit the fan, and they may have like built something like Bitcoin to have as a potential on-ramp, but we actually have to take ourselves there to do that. And I'm like, it kind of feels like they're just seeing, how crazy do we have to make this for you guys to like come together and come up with your own solution or exit? Do you know what I mean? That's one theory that I have, but I'd love to hear both of your guys.
Ben, your mic is on a different mic, by the way, just so you know.
Bro, everything's just, is it? Oh my goodness.
You sounded fine there, though.
Okay, I'll come back in. This thing's screwing with me. You take over, Keith.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Casey, any initial thoughts?
Oh, my initial thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, but I'm happy to riff on it too. Also, we had somebody comment. He said, Joshua said, in my opinion, something substantial came up, and so they flooded the zone. I think that's an interesting thought.
Yeah, totally. But then the other thing I want to ask about you, like Casey, I'd love to hear your thoughts on, is when we picture these people that run the world, right, or whatever, like, could they actually be that much smarter than us, or are we giving them way too much credit?
Yeah, we're giving them way too much credit for sure. They definitely have a good amount of power, but you know how they say like power corrupts? I heard this thing the other day. This guy made a really good argument how it's actually weakness that corrupts. Like, I think it's possible that like them, one, having to live with, creating whatever sort of evil design there could be, hypothetically, they would have to live with that. And it's possible that it's actually weakness that corrupts, which reminds me too, like you said something earlier, Ben. It's like, I really do believe we're going to be choosing, whatever the next thing is. We always choose it. That's one thing I've learned is like, it's our decision. Like, I don't think we're going to be forced into anything.
Yeah, it almost seems like they're priming us to ask for a change, right? And then, but my concern with all of that is that I just really want people to become more educated and believe in the power of information again. Like, what's crazy to me is how throughout all of history, information or access to it dictated your status and who you were, right? Like, only really rich, high profile people had access to information. With the internet, man, we've all had access to literally everything, and most of it for free. And very few people take advantage of that or even see that information can be valuable. It's so funny, we as humans, as soon as we have something in excess and it's no longer scarce, we don't value it.
Right.
Which is so insane. Like, most people don't even see the beauty that the internet can be. And so it's like, if we really get educated on the options that are out there, like, I think there's so much more that we could be doing than we realize. Like, even I don't think the problem is people don't realize there are options out there, and then they don't even know enough about the options to like ask for them, which creates this really difficult problem of this doomerism just gets deeper and deeper and deeper, which is what we try to talk about on the show, is that there are things being built. We do have technologies, like things can be positive, but it's just it's something I think about all the time. I'm not sure I've landed on why they let us see all this stuff. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah. I mean, education is a big one. I think like what I would argue is as important too is like curiosity and discernment. I think discernment is really challenging in an informational overload environment. And you kind of need that curiosity piece in tandem with the education, as far as I can tell. But like, I don't know why things changed. I mean, it's people were being removed from the internet. People weren't allowed to say things. You would get that message, you know, this contains possibly like false information. And now it's, it is the reason I say a complete 180 is not only because not only now are they not doing that, they're also actually like force feeding these echo chambers onto people to the point where like people are actually they're now building identities on top of these really aggressive algorithms because it's extremely sensationalized, like we were talking about earlier, right? Some of these like echo chambers go straight down a really dangerous path for a lot of people. It can also be really beneficial, though. You just need to hold that discernment and skepticism because like to bring it back to like some of the nutrition stuff too, like as soon as you have a dogma or an ideology, that's when it becomes dangerous, in my opinion. I don't think it's wrong to investigate and educate and go down these rabbit holes really deep, but I think you should never cling to an ideology or a dogma because then you could very well become the problem.
Definitely. Could you give examples of what that would look like?
Yeah. There's a couple like it's really like, let me start with nutrition. Like there's obviously like carnivore crowd, right? Red meat crowd. There's high carb pro metabolic crowd. It's like when you cling to a dogma like that, you actually lose the nuance. I know we were talking about nuance before the conversation started, but that's kind of more of a minor example. Like I'm curious how where you guys see it manifest.
We see these pockets all the time, and I always joke with Keith that there's been like 8 to 12 characters that the internet has now, and basically like they chill in their own boxes based on whatever their strongest pull was, where the algorithm really got them. And when COVID happened, everyone became a social media person. People didn't consume nearly as much on social as they did until then because we didn't have access to these crazy interest-based feeds that TikTok normalized. That wasn't a thing before. Like people would typically complain about the Instagram For You page not being that good, and then YouTube also had the choice-based element of that's incredible amount of additional friction where you have to click something for it to come on your screen and start playing. Like completely different. And so, yeah, I think TikTok, it happens all over the place. And once they get you, they take you down a path of just confirming whatever it is the dogma that you believe, like you had said. And then that becomes so dangerous because people won't change their mind because they're like, I know this and I know this for certain. And people also think that whatever they've seen, everyone else has seen. So like when they're yelling at the other person, typically they're like, you're an idiot. How do you not know this? Because they think they've both seen the same things. And you're just like, anybody who's seen these things and thinks like that must be an idiot. It's like they haven't seen those things, but people don't really grasp what it is that they're using on their phone. Everyone thinks they understand it because they have access to it. That's like one thing that's also a massive thing is that a lot of people self-identify as being intelligent or whatever. And so they don't think that they could be duped. Right? Like they just don't even think like for me, it's my family is like very political, but they're not educated in their political ideology whatsoever. They're just very passionate about it.
Yeah, yeah. After like Dunning-Krugering myself, for example, I reached a point where I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm so retarded. Like, I can't be the guy to give people advice, right? That was like a self-crisis. It's like, can I actually be that guy? After realizing how little I really know. And it's like, that is it's another form of comfort, like identity building, especially when you don't know, like that's the thing. I just did a video on this last night, how we were scrolling in this impressionable state. We're not really chewing on this information. As a result, like I have this theory that like there's a painting I talk about in this post where it's called The Contemplator. It's just this guy like sitting in the forest, like looking straight out. And it's like there's nothing going on in his head. But it's also like he has some sort of like thoughtless contemplation going on where like if you wake him up, he's not going to be able to tell you what he was thinking about, but he was thinking about something. So he remembers how he feels about things, right? He remembers like these impressions that were made on him, but it only later becomes manifest in his actions, even though he's not able to like recall it in the instant. That's just like a random theory I had yesterday. I was like, maybe that's actually what's going on with short form content is we're completely like kind of brain rotted out in these impressionable states, information overload, and we're not retaining anything, but we're remembering the identity that we built on top of our echo chamber.
So well said, dude. I think that's awesome. And Keith's nodding because he agrees. And I think about that all the time too, where it almost does feel like it's like hypnotism that like it lulls you into this state of being impressionable. And the problem is like, a lot of people can't recall what they learned, but much like you said, I do think it's shifting internal belief systems, and that's just as dangerous. So yeah, I think that's really well said. But Keith, I want to hear what your thoughts were.
No, I mean, it's right on. I think you powerfully laid that out. It's just such an interesting concept that we can be consuming things, right, without actually uh, recognizing what impact it's having on us in general. I saw a short, I think, Ben, you might have even sent it to me the other day, where it was like, yeah, you did. If if you took a minute when you're scrolling on social media to just note down like how you feel after each one of the posts that you are consuming, and then documenting that for, let's say, 5 minutes out of the day, uh, you'll start to get a better understanding of what is actually happening to yourself when you're using these platforms and the impact that it's having on you besides the information itself. And then you also sent me something very recently that was like this piece about Facebook running an experiment. Uh, I'll try to find it, honestly. Maybe we can just play it so that I don't be the one to get this information wrong. But essentially, it was about how platforms are. Let me just, I think I found it. Yeah, here it is. All right, let me play this for you guys.
Experiment on 689,000
So Facebook ran an experiment.
people and didn't tell a single one of them. Those weren't volunteers. Nobody signed up. They were literally just on the app, scrolling, liking their cousin's dumb vacation photos, and the whole time, a team of data scientists was reaching into their feeds and turning a dial, feeding some of them sadness and feeding others joy.
Just to take a second here. Imagine just having the knob, right?
But people don't think that's even a thing, Keith, right? That's the scariest part is that like people can conceptualize if they meet somebody who's like a really good salesman or someone who's really good at getting people to do things, they're like, okay, that's a skill that someone can have. Now they don't realize that like imagine like a machine that's been perfected nearly to be that guy in every situation. Like
Crazy.
you should be on the highest alert when you are consuming content. And ironically, we turn our brain off.
It's the opposite.
It's true. Like when you think about what we've been doing, the state of the world makes complete sense. You're like, oh well, no shit.
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, it reminds me of one thing though, which is like I think people feel in control because they can actually change their echo chamber, but that's not even necessarily a good thing because I recently realized like, for example, I set up like I have 4 or 5 different Instagram accounts, and with each one, I'm like very particular about like the algorithm that I build on that account. But what I've realized is like it's gotten so perfect to the point where there's almost no level of scrolling that I can tolerate for myself at least. I don't get me wrong, I scroll, but there's like no level of it because it's so perfect to the point where it's like this is making real life feel so unsaturated, so boring, right? So it's like we really need to a couple of things I've like been trying to do instead is like let me give a couple of examples, which is like we often do multiple things at a time. Like, I don't know if you guys have friends who like when they're watching a movie, they're on TikTok or like when they're working at their desk, they're listening to a podcast or something like these. That's something that I used to do.
Yeah, I
Focus
still do that a
on
fair
one
amount, I
thing
can't
at a
lie.
time. Like that's something that's really helped me at least. Um, I'm curious like what you guys think. We obviously have No Dice 45, which like I'm sure is like I don't have No Dice myself, but like I'm curious if you guys have built measures of like escaping. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whether it
Well,
be social
dude,
media.
it's crazy that you brought it up because I was going to bring it up. Like, this is 100% something that's bringing that back into my life, forcing me to actually do one thing at a time, which has been reading throughout the challenge. It has been doing the meditations and doing the breath work, which, there's at least one mindfulness practice usually in every single day of the challenge. And then something that might be educational as well. So, yeah, dude, like legitimately having the app has actually forced me to do that in my life because I'm also always doing more than one thing at a time.
Yeah, I fall into that as well too, and this has forced me to not do that, and it almost makes any task meditation-like, right? It turns like any task into a meditation when you're just in it and you're not being split across a bunch of different things. So Casey, we'll get you an account of No Dice after this to make sure that you can play around with it and join us on No Dice 45. But yeah, man, because like a lot of these things that like to make things better, the things are usually pretty simple, but you have to do them long enough to really see the value. And we live in this instant reinforcement place online where it's like instantly we get feedback or instantly we get validation. And so when we do the things in real life, we expect things to turn around that fast, and it doesn't work like that. And so I think a lot of people have not really done any sort of work on themselves in terms of mindfulness and things of that nature because it's like it's not an enjoyable process, I wouldn't say, especially not at the beginning. I remember when I was first trying to get into meditation and things of that nature, I was just like, what the hell am I doing here? I felt so dumb. I was out on like my balcony and stuff and be like, everyone's looking at me thinking I'm this try hard, right? At first you go to these places, but eventually they do start to slip away.
Yeah, that reminds me of what Keith was talking about earlier, how he's like, we do have this desire to be led, which I think it helps people when they're in those initial stages of whether it be meditation or something else to get some sort of guidance from somebody who actually knows how to do it. But that's the thing is, I believe there is a form of where it becomes easier and easier as you do it to the point where the little things actually become meditation themselves. So like little things you do during the day are actually a form of meditation. It's not guided, it's not led. But Ben, as you were talking, it reminded me of this quote from Walt Whitman, which I'll read really quick, which is really cool. He says, with perfect health and a regular agreeable occupation, there are no low spirits and cannot be. A man realizes the old myth of the poets. He is a god walking the earth. Not only feels new powers in himself, he sees new beauties everywhere. His faculties, his eyesight, his hearing, all acquire superior capacity to give him pleasure. Indeed, merely to move is pleasure. The play of the limbs in motion is enough. To breathe, to eat, and to drink the simplest food outvie the most costly of previous enjoyments. Sorry, I kind of butchered the end, but that is like, to me, that's like what meditation, the goal is to become. It's actually not something that you go to be led, you go to your class and then you turn it off as soon as you leave the class. It's like, find a way to meditate through life. Like, I don't know, you don't even really need to label it meditation. It's just like finding inner peace.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people they try to intellectualize practices like this, and so they try to use words to describe something that can't be described in words, right? And so then they get too fixated on the literal definition of a word that's being used in a specific context, and then it loses a lot of what it's there for. I think Keith, in the meditations that you've recorded for No Dice, I think you did a fantastic job of illustrating a lot of what Casey is saying. So if you guys have not downloaded No Dice and tried those meditations that Keith has recorded, if you want to hear his awesome voice guide you through a meditation, then definitely go ahead and do that. It's linked down below, but it is a great reminder that stuff can happen, but it takes a lot. That's also why we put the tasks into the app that we did, because like a lot of the things that are in there are things that we've used throughout our life to get out of really bad situations. And I also think that a lot of the things that we're experiencing in terms of the gambling epidemic and all that stuff, it's not really about the thing. Do you know what I mean, Casey? I'd love for you to explain like, more about because before we got on, you talked a bit about the gambling stuff and a lack of meaning or lack of in men and stuff like that. I'd love for you to go down that path if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I mean, I almost was hoping you would keep going on there. Like, what? So people in their gambling is not for the thing. What exactly do you mean by that?
So, in my opinion, whenever somebody has a vice, whether it be a physical substance they're consuming or a practice like this that then releases the chemicals, or if it's food for certain people, almost always it feels like it's something that's unresolved within themselves. And so I
Got
think that, right, like I don't think that many people are like they would say they're doing the gambling for money, but they're really
Yeah.
doing it to be the guy who has money. And so
Right.
is it really about the money? Do you know what I'm saying?
Dude. Yeah. And this reminds me of a post that Keith did, which was awesome. It's like people who are gambling are addicted to bouncing back. They're literally not even addicted to the winning. They're addicted to the bouncing back part. And like that to me, to answer your original question, Ben, is like it's not the thing you get in return. It's not the reward. It's so cliche. It's like who you're creating of yourself in the process, right? It's not the destination, it's the journey. It's that whole cliche thing, but it's like that's something that people truly don't believe in. And I think like this is another thing that I was thinking about earlier, was like I think it was like the feeling of hopelessness that might exist within like common folk society could be a result of a deficit of faith in something higher than themselves. Could be hope, definitely is hope. Real insights. I think a lot of people don't feel satisfied with the insights that they're getting because they have never really sat down to digest it. And last one is love. I don't think people really like are loving things as much as they used to. I mean, look at the crisis of nihilism, like especially in the youth. The youth are so nihilistic, and to me, I believe it's one because of outsourcing, two because of the whole incentives and rewards thing. Like they're not getting the incentives and rewards, and then three, it's like those four things that I just mentioned. Like they're struggling to find those core tenets or whatever.
Totally. I also think that the older generation doesn't really help them. I'm including myself in that because they're constantly told that things are so messed up, and it's like, okay, we used to have the lie, right, of like this lie of tomorrow's always better than today, right, and how we could always hold on to the potential. Like that's something that I always noticed through school. That as soon as people graduated from school, I always noticed there was like this big drop off or like experience of depression because you're now forced to live in what was being built up to you for like 15, 20 years where you're like, and you create these things in your brain where it's like, especially if you were somebody who was always good at school, like I saw that they typically struggled the most because they were told so much about how they were so great, destined for all these amazing things, and that's allowed them to look like nothing's bigger than your potential, right? Like there's nothing that you could possibly achieve that would fulfill what that's become in the expectation. And I feel like there are cons in terms of what they go through, but they probably find themselves more through that pain. Whereas now, like the kids don't even have anything to look forward to, right? They're like, this thing is all screwed. We're all cooked. Like, what is the point? Which is also why we try to talk about more positive things on this show. But it is very true. Like nihilism is everywhere, and I also see it because my software companies, we deal with like direct consumer facing, right? And people are freaking angry, man. Like people are so angry, but a lot of it also has to do with them being poor, right? Like they're not in a good financial situation, so naturally that's going to make you angry at a lot of things. But it's crazy. How would you like? What would your advice be for young people that are in that state, Casey?
Well, to be rich is to need less things. So like if you are you can actually be the happiest person and be poor. I truly believe that, which is like that's coming from a place of, I'll admit it, like privilege. I grew up in Southern California. Like, don't get me wrong, I work three jobs right now, so I work really hard. But my thoughts, like to answer your question though, it's the whole internal versus external validation thing. It's really hard for people to feel internally validated, especially like the example of what you said when it's like our whole life is just teed up for us by society. It's like you're going to do this, you're going to do that. Once you check off that box, good job. And, you know, then you get the piece of paper, then you get the job. And it's like these check boxes become forms of attachment for people. There's nothing wrong with them. I'm not saying don't try. Like, in fact, I almost feel like the more detached you become from the outcome, the better you perform. Like, this is flow state, right? This is what everybody wants to achieve. This is a state of optimal performance. Flow state, non-attachment, no anxiety about the future, about the reward, about the outcome, just like true presence and action.
Keith, hit me with something.
I was just thinking about like this idea that in general, it feels like people have, like, if things economically got better over the past 50, 60 years, right? And you now have a generation of kids that are being born into this world where things were good for their parents. And so they were raised in pretty good circumstances. But then they're also getting into the world, and that level, that baseline that's been developed for a lot of these people is now something that's not something that they can afford to maintain, right? It's kind of the thing that's coming to my head. Because like, I mean, it's the same concept of the things that our parents were able to afford, we cannot afford, right? We're not being able to pay for or afford these things in terms of the price levels are just so much higher. So even though it feels like there's like a whole generation on the planet, right, that's experiencing that to some degree, at least in the West, maybe to be fair, where people have been doing so much better and the kids grew up in a place that was just very comfortable, but now there's no way that you could maintain that.
Yeah. In my eyes, it's like I almost feel like the biggest way you can say F you to the whole system is to try despite getting nothing in return. It sounds really silly, and like it sounds kind of like ascetic too, you know, like my rewards in the afterlife type thinking. But like I almost feel like that's like the biggest F you to culture, right? But it's hard. Like to your point, we aren't guaranteed anything, and it is so much harder. Like, yeah, it's there is no excuse though in my eyes to become nihilistic about it, because it's the whole identification with the problem thing that only exacerbates your issues.
Yeah, and the big thing that I feel like has been the trend over the past couple of years maybe is, you know, finding individual people to take it out on, or an organization to take it out on. We saw Luigi Mangione, right, and him becoming like someone who's hoisted up by society as like a hero to young people, especially who feel like things aren't fair and that companies are evil and whatnot. Now, the sad thing about that situation is, you know, that's another man, right? Another human who's here with us on the planet that has now had to pay the consequences for a structure, right, that he did not create. And you know, there's always ways to shift the blame, right, to someone or somewhere. But once again, the act of taking that out on another human is pretty wild, to point out the individual in that case and do something that cannot be reversed to that human. But go ahead, Casey, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's a great example. Like, there was a time in my life when I was very pacifist, and I was like, to each their own, kind of more like hippie type, probably as a result of that one phase of my life. But I do believe like there is a need for people to stand for something. Um, it's really important to stand for something, but you know, that doesn't want to be standing for some sort of dogma or ideology that you've built that you don't understand why you stand for it. But it reminds me of like this thought that I had, which like I'm not you know, advocating for Luigi Mangione or anything, but like I did have this thought like maybe a month or so ago where like there's the whole love your neighbor as yourself, right? And there's also the whole concept of like understand that in your enemy exists something that also exists within you. That might be hard for some people to understand, but you do need to know your enemy, which means understanding that that's within you. But this whole love your neighbor as yourself thing, it's like, do you ever look like you, Keith, and you, Ben, do you ever love yourself enough to discipline yourself? Like this is the fatherly love archetype, I guess, which is like you actually need to stand for something, and you also need to kind of fight for something. In our own lives, it might be demonstrated in the form of discipline, but it's like I think we are going to be entering an age where we actually are going to need to fight for something. I'm not saying, I'm not saying do what Luigi Mangione did, right? But I think it could escalate to a certain point where you're actually, this is like going to be the cycle of time where heroes are made, right? Because people are so pacifist and so like, I think we're going to choose, like we were talking about earlier, we're going to choose the next solution, right? We've kind of been, to me, it feels like teed up into this environment where it's like we're all pretty soft. Like I think we're gonna want the next solution, but I'm ready to stand for something. Like I hope that I have enough discernment to like be ready to, even if it means like laying down my life for something that I see as truth. Like I don't doubt that possibility could be, come to form within my lifetime. You never know if history repeats itself.
Yeah, that's a fascinating thought. Keith, did you have something?
Well, I was just gonna touch on the short that we played earlier from you. Has definitely been something that crossed my mind about all of this. Like what if we are just being tagged and put into buckets based upon what level of what beliefs we have, or at least the beliefs that we're willing to put out there into the world, and that being something that's used against us down the line. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, well, if the world does actually get to that point, then I don't think that, like, I think it's fine. You know what I mean? Like,
We're cooked.
yeah.
Like it's hopeless.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, I think like my bio on Instagram is this: to fix a broken system, we must first forgive the flaws in others that the system created. And I think that's something that, like, I think when people truly grasp that, like the reflection that they see, that they think they hate in like the other, that when they see their peers, it's like a way that I stopped being mad or disliking anyone was just realizing that that's just their manifestation of the broken environment that I am also experiencing, right? Like, given their unique sets of experiences and what they were subjected to, like that was always going to be what would be created. And so it's like, what point is there in disliking the individual when I know it's all collectively a system problem?
So I mentioned how I'm a skeptic and I suffer with things like doubt. So what you just said is a great example of how we are all very, very aware of how much divisiveness there is. And I'm enough of a skeptic I don't rule out the fact that that could be orchestrated to the point where we're craving the unity. And I don't want to be given a solution that on the surface level is labeled as unity, but is a massive trade-off for something like freedom, because there are no solutions, there are only trade-offs. And that's the skeptic in me. Like I want the unity, and on a more like micro level, like when we're just talking to others one-on-one, whatever, it is so important to just listen more than you speak. Like, because if you can really train that, you almost, like I was saying a moment ago, you see forms of your enemy or whoever you're talking, you see forms of who you're talking to in yourself when you're not just trying to like, demonstrate how much you know about something or convert them into your dogma, whatever.
So, I've got nothing, honestly.
I think we're all so much more alike than we realize. And if you could channel, it's just so ridiculous that, and I don't know exactly how we change this, but like where change could take place, we've just now reached a point where we're evident where like that's not where it's going to happen, right? Like when people look at democracy,
Not
and they're
gonna be
like,
top down, you mean?
yeah, because they're like,
Right.
oh, if there's a problem, it's also a very difficult experience to be living in a world that is so evidently broken, and the people who are dictating the mess don't even acknowledge it really. Like they say a bunch of other things that aren't actually the problem. And like, even if people who don't know the specifics, they feel that it's a lie. And so it's very difficult to go through life and not be angry all the time when you now know and can feel you're being lied to all the time.
Dude. Yeah.
Yeah. It's wild, you know, because when you look at the politicians in America, at least it's very obvious where, and then you see people come out of it. I'm sorry. So there's two things. There's the politicians themselves, and then there's the media. And a lot of us have been able to see, okay, this is kind of a lot of crap. They're just pitting people against each other and grifting their way to finding success in whatever it is that they're doing, whether that's getting attention or getting votes. I think they both are pretty much serving that same function of just like pitting people against each other as a way to profit in some sort of fashion. And then you see people come out and then they call it out, right? So like I think it was like I won't even name the politician, but then you have the news people like Tucker Carlson, right? He comes out and he's like, oh, you know, I was doing this, I was playing in the machine, this is terrible, blah blah blah. But then like, but if that's going on all the time, right? Then eventually you have to wake up and see that that's what that's all really about, is just getting attention, just getting the eyeballs to keep people divided. And then this gets extrapolated out to the algorithms as well. It doesn't really solve the problem. It doesn't really, right? Because like the way that Ben and I think, or at least for me, the way that I try to do this is you have to get the attention. So it's like, what's the saying? It's like show the dessert and then feed them the vegetables. You know what I'm saying? It's like kind of how I take the approach to how I package my content. I put out a video the other day, and Casey, I want to come back to this in just a second, about how Bitcoin is going to zero. Like that's the title of the video. And people were mad. They're like, oh, you don't have to do this, bro. Like we know what you're doing. Da, da, da. And I'm like, unfortunately, this is the most viewed video in the past 3-4 months on my channel.
Yeah, people will complain at you for doing it, and yet its efficacy is like proven in the practice, right? And so it's an unfortunate reality that is the case, but it is the case.
And yeah, it's just I bring you in, and then yeah, we'll have the conversation about what's really going on. And I immediately, right, the first clip is this guy talking about blah 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 blah. It's going to zero, da da da. And then I'm like, oh, that guy sounds kind of crazy now, doesn't he? but so yeah, I guess we just have to. I kind of forgot what the point of me talking about all that was, but one thing that I did want to go back to though, Casey, was talking about the crypto stuff. You said something super interesting before we went live about what it was exactly that you were looking for when you made the decision that crypto was something that was important. Can you say that again and explain a little bit of that thinking?
Yeah, well, it's something I'm in my initial stages investigating. So like I'll do my best to try and verse it, but the way I see the modern global economy is that the United States continued deepening of their deficit seems to be a form of like financing the globe, if I understand it correctly, through like you mentioned Jeff Snyder in like one of your old videos. I think he covers how like the like U.S. Treasuries are like the primary form of collateral, right, in the world economy. That's what allows banks to have transfers and trades among one another overnight. What I've realized is like since 2008, the only trend has been kicking the can down the road, right? Kind of suppressing our problems. And the United States continues to go into debt and almost find it like the euro dollar system, like exporting dollars to the rest of the world feels like one of the big macro pieces here. And what I was wondering is like, how do the Federal Reserve and Treasury, like, how does the United States preserve its global reserve currency hegemony? Is like one thing that I used to investigate a lot prior to getting into all the health stuff, but recently re-sparked my interest in it, which is I think what I've realized is that there is going to be a knee-jerk reaction when the next crisis inevitably hits. And I think they're going to need instant liquidity is kind of what I settled on. And the way I landed on like XRP as being a possible solution of that is not because I inherently love what XRP is, but because it would solve that use case. I guess my question is like how XRP ties into, because I'm not as familiar with like the plumbing and the what do you call it? Like just the semantics and terminology of the space. Like stable coins, would XRP like tie in with the United States government at all? Because I know that it is one of the few cryptocurrencies that's, well, one of many, I guess, that was developed in the United States. I guess what I'm wondering though is like which cryptocurrency is going to be the means of providing instant liquidity in that next scenario. I feel like XRP is going to be that thing, because of all the debt, like, and all the. I mean, I'll let you guys riff on that because this is where you guys are a lot more familiar and involved.
I have a question for you on this though. So, do you feel like because this term instant liquidity is certainly something that I think I've heard and for the first time heard from this concept of Ripple and XRP. Did you come to this conclusion about the need for liquidity before going down that rabbit hole, or do you feel like it came from that?
Way before, because I initially learned about like quantitative easing and like the post Great Financial Crisis recession and how I mean, quantitative easing, if I'm not mistaken, did begin after 2008, and this was a form of the Federal Reserve buying treasuries from the banks and then giving the banks dollars as a means of liquidity, right? And then those banks owe interest back to the Fed. So like I this is a video I put out earlier, which is like, in a sense, as a result of the massive amount of quantitative easing, we do have a massive amount of interest or money being generated, the capability of being generated at the Fed, which I find interesting. But I find it even more interesting how that was our method of, because I actually think the 2008 Great Financial Crisis, if we let it play out, would have actually been worse than we let it be. I think it was, and when I say quantitative easing, this is for people who don't understand, that's what people commonly refer to as money printing. It's a lot more nuanced than that. Like personally, I don't believe we exactly print money. It's just more nuanced. But like that's what I learned from my studies at the time, which is that like we stimulate, and even COVID, which was a really fast recession, we used a special purpose vehicle in the form of PPP loans, in the form of stimulus checks to consumers. That was instant liquidity. That was money that can enter the economy. And when we talk about money printing, that actually isn't money that enters the economy. Well, it can, but it's not, it doesn't just like fly into people's pockets. Like it needs to be lent out into existence, is how I understand it. Because if this is just an asset swap, if the Federal Reserve is just buying bonds from the banks and then giving the banks the cash, it doesn't enter the economy unless the banks lend it out. But that cash that is sitting on their balance sheets is how they trade with one another in the euro dollar market. And I think like it could be a little bit mistaken about that, but I don't know. Like that's my understanding of it. I do think liquidity is everything in order to kick the can down the road and prevent governments, central banks from actually having to just eat it from how fake everything is.
Fascinating. No, I mean, what you're saying to me makes a lot of sense. And to have come to that conclusion of the need for liquidity before going fully down the XRP rabbit hole would be something that would probably be pretty enlightening, or that would feel pretty
Confirming.
Confirming. Yeah, it's kind of what I'm trying to say, of that idea, as that is a big part of what the entire use case has apparently been designed for. So, yeah, I mean, it's wild that we have Wes, who's been in the chat. He was talking about the Japanese yen reverse carry trade earlier, and that being something that could essentially kick all of this off and really create that need. Mm-hmm.
So there, yeah, as you were talking, there was like one more piece of it, which relates to that comment, which is like, debt is deflationary, plain and simple. We experienced inflation after COVID, and I was actually one of the people who was saying the inflation is going to come back down. Maybe not to the baseline that it was at, maybe higher, but we're not going to experience this prolonged inflation, as everybody was saying we're going to hyperinflate, et cetera. But what we need to understand is debt is deflationary. Like we sit on the biggest debt bubble in history, I believe. that is inherently deflationary, and governments can only continue to kick the can down the road with inflation. So they want the inflation, don't get me wrong, but it is a deflationary backdrop that we have. That's my personal belief. I know people might differ with that opinion, but the reverse carry trade, I think if that were to unwind, that's a perfect example of a liquidity crisis. That's deflationary. Like that's a need for that's a need for money. A need for money is deflation. When you're in an inflationary environment, you want to spend your money quick. You're not keeping your money in the bank in an inflationary environment. You need dollars. The value of the dollar goes up. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with Brent Johnson. He's an economist who I really like. He has this dollar milkshake theory. I think it holds a lot of validity. If you guys haven't heard of that, I highly recommend you go. I just listened to he's been on Macro Voices, which is a really good macroeconomics podcast. But that's what I think that's maybe the theory that I prescribe to a little bit more, is like the possibility of the United States dollar outperforming as a means of like being the only person who has the solution to offer the liquidity to the globe in the next globally synchronized recession. Because recessions, especially when the United States is involved, are never isolated. It's always systemic now. That's what we learned during COVID.
Very, very interesting. And yes, I do follow Brent Johnson and the dollar milkshake theory. So yes, with this idea, I want to make sure I fully sum it up. When prices are going higher due to inflation, money printing, things of that nature, you actually need more dollars. And therefore, the value of the dollar goes up. Is that what you were saying?
Not quite. When there is money printing, I believe it's our M1 money supply goes. What I'm saying is that we have an economy that is based on debt. Not only the US government, but the consumer economy is based on debt. So if there is not sufficient dollars, if the government is not able to stimulate enough inflation, then that is going to turn into a deflationary environment. So there's this other guy who I follow on YouTube. His name is The Uneducated Economist. And he has a really interesting theory how like the federal funds rate, which is, what we believe when the Federal Reserve has their meetings and they set, we're going to raise interest rates or we're going to decrease interest. Like his whole theory is that it's actually like forward guidance. It's all of the talk that the elected officials do, especially the Fed, that almost like cause people to spend more and save more, because what we do with our money actually also creates inflation. Like when people believe there's going to be inflation, they spend more money. And one of the components of inflation is velocity of money. When people believe there's going to be inflation and they're actually spending more, that creates inflation. So they need this backdrop. But here, dude, my whole this is where my theory comes to an end almost, which is I do believe rates are going to go negative because that is a form of inflation. If your money's in the bank and you're like, dude, my money's getting fried, like I'm literally paying the bank to hold it here. I might as well buy stuff with it. Like I believe consumerism is an end goal for the controllers. I believe negative is an end goal. But here's the thing. If there's negative interest rates, people are going to pull their money out and take cash, which is why they need digital currency. Does that make sense?
Yes. If there's negative interest rates, you wouldn't keep your money in the bank because it's eating away at it. The bank would be eating away at your cash. So you take the money out of the bank. But if you take the money out of the bank, systems collapse, right? You can't really take all the money out.
Yes, and they wouldn't want you to take your money out of the bank because there would be bank runs. It's too dangerous. They need a digital currency before taking rates negative. Because if you're able to pull out cash, it defeats the purpose. You would need to have the digital currency before taking rates negative, so that way people can't withdraw their money. Their only option is to spend it. That's kind of like a theory. Like, I don't know if that's going to play out, but I did a post on this. Like, this is what Epstein is emailing to Peter Thiel, that they're going to take rates negative. So that's just kind of how I think it might play out.
And I think we lost your camera here, Casey. I'm not sure what happened.
If you refresh the tab, you should be able to reconnect and come back in with your camera, but we did lose the camera.
I'll be right back.
That's good.
Cool.
But it's fascinating to think about all these things.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's what I was going to say. How are you now? I'm going to wait for him to come back.
Can you still see the chat, Keith?
I can on my phone, but not
Yeah,
on.
you lost it on Riverside too.
Yeah.
There you go. You're back, Casey.
Hey, Casey, so how are you now? Has a comment. He says, why couldn't you withdraw your digital money by buying assets, was one thing that he said.
That's a really good question. Is there another part of that, or is that it?
No, that's it. Sorry.
You would want to buy assets. You would want to buy that. That's the thing, is it's important to just get into assets sooner rather than later. I mean, it's you just need to invest. Like, you need to invest into real assets that ideally hold their value or generate returns for you. But, you know, it's like, obviously that's a really simple general answer, but like, I think, yeah, you wouldn't want to hold it in the bank. It's just what we would need to spend money. We would need to stimulate more inflation. Consumerism is what keeps this going in the long run, is how I see it.
Have you heard of Jeff Booth, Casey?
Yeah, is he the Bitcoin guy?
Yes.
Okay. Did
So
you guys do a pod with him?
Yeah, he's been on the show twice. I definitely recommend giving those a watch for like a different perspective on the things that you're thinking through right now. 'Cause his whole thing is, he repeats this mantra that the natural state of the free market is deflation. And so his thesis is that basically Bitcoin will usher in the first ever truly free market that we've ever experienced, which would drive systemic deflation across the board. But we'll see. That's his theory.
I want him to be right in a sense. I just don't know. I just don't really see it playing out that way. Like, but I'll have to listen to him first, right?
Yeah.
I could always be persuaded.
He makes compelling arguments. Definitely it's worth a watch. And he's clearly a very smart dude who's thought about this a lot. I think his thing that he says is it 12,000 hours or like 16,000 hours? He said he's put into trying to break Bitcoin. And he said that he couldn't get to that place, which is why he felt that with everything we're discussing being a system problem, his whole thesis is basically you can't resolve a system problem within the same system, more or less. And so he's saying that this would usher that in, because that is a very important thing to consider, is that what we're told that we live in every single day as like free market capitalism is kind of crazy to like call it that, because it's not very free. Like, go ahead, Keith.
No, I was just gonna say definitely not at all what to call it. Anything that's calling the system free market in any way is by
crazy.
far a psyop. I mean, so yeah.
It's unfortunate though, because like free market capitalism, we in our lives haven't seen what it could be, but like I think it's possible that like in its truest form, that could be a great solution, but everybody hates capitalism now. We are in end stage capitalism. It gets a bad rap. I'm curious to see like how it could work.
Yeah, I think I'll have to call it something different completely for it to, because yeah, you're right. People hate capitalism. Like, look at, further than like Mamdani getting elected in New York, right? Like, people are very much angered by that word. I think it's also because it's been like a lie, and people know that too. So if it's the current lie we're experiencing, I think that they think anything else would be an improvement.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot lately is like, and I have a lot of research and studying to do on the concept. It's like, why is capitalism an answer anyway? It's like, what is it about this concept of capitalism that's actually supposed to be correct? Because I mean, there's a lot of things that I realize I've only been told, right, around capitalism. And then when you think about just like the way that capitalism has been promoted through even the past 100 years, we talk a lot about incentives and structures and whatnot. And when it comes to capitalism has by far been something that's been like forced upon the world in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah.
And anything that's good, anything that works, anything that's supposed to be proper, like you wouldn't have to
shouldn't
do
have
that
to.
now, would you?
Totally. Yeah.
So it's interesting to think about that too, because I, once again, have a lot of studying to do.
Because even
yeah.
Sorry,
No.
even like the easier sources of information, if you go back far enough to who created the establishments that create the curriculums, like the incentives there are one to maintain the existing system too, right? So yeah, I think that capitalism is littered with flaws, evidently by how much stress the average person is experiencing. But yeah, what comes next? I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
Are you guys I know are we running like low on time or anything like that?
You're welcome to stay as long as you want, Casey. You can even chill with us for the whole second half if you have the time, but you leave whenever you got to leave.
Yeah,
Okay. I did want to like, I don't know if this is going to open a new can of worms, but you guys are like talking a lot about aliens on your channel.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I haven't seen the alien episodes yet. I've seen the titles on 2 or 3. That's one thing I'm wondering though, is like, dude, it's so funny. Like when I talk about aliens, I do it on like trial reels just because it's so schizo, and I'm like, I don't want to like go full off the rails on my channel. But dude, like the alien trial reels like do really well for me. But one thing I talk about on there is like, is it going to be one of those things where the aliens show us like how all your systems don't work, right? And it's going to be like, we need to unite as like one world. Like, I think that's what a lot of people are kind of speculating right now, is like, are the aliens going to be that thing that drives us towards like a one world government? A lot of people are like, we're going to fight the aliens and unite. I don't think it's going to be that. If anything, it would be like, your guys' systems haven't really worked for yourselves. Like, look how corrupt and kind of fake a lot of your institutions are. Like, let's unite as one world. Not even saying I believe in aliens. This whole thing could be like some sort of grand scheme by some controllers. But I'm like curious where you guys like have landed on that topic.
It's something that's been a fascination of mine for ever since I was like a little kid, which I think we all have that to a degree. But it could totally be a long executed psyop. Like I'd say that's probably a pretty likely scenario, but who knows? Because even there's been priming for where, I forget which president said it, but he's like, how quickly we would put aside our differences if a alien were to land on the White House lawn or whatever it was. I'm screwing up the exact quote, but it's like, you've been planting the seed for that long. It does seem like you wouldn't drop the execution of the psyop until you absolutely had to. And it seems like we're nearing that point where it's like, how many more cards do they have left to play? You got to have something like this. So I don't know. It's something I've been, because it's way more legitimized than I think the average person actually understands. Like if they gained the context for where these discussions are taking place and who is involved in terms of their status within government, I think people would be like paying attention a lot more, because it's kind of crazy who is having these conversations now.
Yeah, I like that idea, Casey. In general, right? For things to transition, right, from the system that we're in now, if there's a need for a transition, there's going to have to be some sort of a like mass awakening sort of moment. That would be something that would touch people to a very like natural level, like it would have to touch their humanity. It had to be something that everybody everywhere, would be able to get down with. And aliens, by far, would be the most easy answer to how to get people to completely change their worldview and shift.
Dude, that would instantly usher in like a openness, willingness for like a one world government, right? Because we've been conditioned for us versus them from different segments of the human population for so long that like, what else would make everyone put those aside? I can't think of anything else that would make everyone drop that. Fuck. It keeps.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
I mean, what he was saying though, like that's how I see it as well. That's probably, whether it's a mass psychosis event or a real event, I don't know, but that's the only card in the deck that I could see creating that monumental of a change, especially with how divided we are. But yeah, I don't know if you had finished your thought there, Ben.
Yeah, it's all good. The alien stuff is truly fascinating, and
You're on your other mic again.
oh my gosh, this shit is so annoying.
But yeah,
Bugs. Is
There
it
we
the right
go.
mic now?
yeah.
Cool. Yeah, the alien stuff, I do think that we'll probably see some sort of conclusion on whatever it has been for a very long time. And will that be the truth? Who frickin' knows? But I think we will see some stuff, is where my hunch is. But yeah. How much have you looked into it, Casey?
I haven't. I mean, I used to listen to the Joe Rogan pods and like high school, I guess, if you will. So I've listened to like some of the Corbin, what's his name? Jeremy
Jeremy Corbyn.
and, like things like that. So I haven't gone into the depths of the whole matter.
Yeah. I've looked into it pretty deeply. Jeremy, what the hell's his name? Jeremy, can't remember his name, but I know I can see his face. He was on there with Bob Lazar, right? But I think I'm getting the right guy. But it's a compelling angle because if it is a coordinated thing, it's not just coordinated within the US government exclusively. Like there's a lot of coordination from governments all across the world. So if that is the case, and this was all to get us to that one world thing, like everyone's been in on it for quite a long time. Like one of the most compelling stories, or a lot of them actually, come from Brazil, Keith. There's actually a pretty big influence of UFO sightings and stories from Brazil. So yeah, and Brazilian governments have been involved and things of that nature. So yeah, if that does come to be the case, we've probably been a lot more intertwined than people have realized the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it just makes me think of like all of the classified stuff that the White House has, and like how much of that stuff is about all of that, and not just like things that actually occurred, but rather like how this is being used, right, to influence people more than anything.
What fascinates me a lot, and where I was really drawn to, was also the technology, right? And the belief system that we've had far advanced technology that wasn't released to everyone because it would undermine the capitalistic system, right? Like most of the anchor for like the whole world has been oil for a very, very long time, right? And so think of the psychological energy that has been convincing us like how oil is the only option, right? And how many things we would lose access to if we lost access to the oil. But if you look at like who that thought would benefit far enough back, like they built everything around that basically. So it's a very interconnected game. And there's also some crazy rules within the government where if anything is classified as like a national security threat, that it becomes like classified, the patent does. And there's like thousands and thousands of patents from civilians that have been captured underneath this clause of national defense risk. So it's like,
wow.
Yeah, that's a very
I
common thing.
Believe like there's the possibility of like
0 point
infinite source energy from the earth, because we definitely do have a perspective of extracting from the earth.
Yes.
When you hear about these stories of like, oh, this guy created a car that can run on water, or Nikola Tesla, and it's like Donald Trump's uncle who seizes some of the, like all these conspiracies.
Yeah.
But it's like the people who identify forms of infinite energy. There's just all these conspiracies about it, and I don't know what's true or not, but we definitely do have this perspective that we need to extract oil for energy.
Completely. And then who built the power structures off of that? And then like what else did they build next? Right? Like it's been a very crazy web of education systems, like rules, laws, lobbying around this central thing. And that's also coming to a head of a bit too with the stuff that you always talk about, Keith, with the conflict in Iran and the Strait of Hormuz, right? Like now everyone is being forced to think about that again, and people feel the pain at the pump. It's also like what a powerful tool for mass control, right? Living in a capitalistic environment and also dictating something that has become not an optional expense, right? It's a crazy, crazy tool. And there's that line from the video, that movie that I always think about, where he's like this oil guy from Texas, and he's like, we try to keep the price of oil around, I think it was like $90, whatever it was. And he's like, because people don't react. If we go to 110, people start freaking out. It's like, if you can do that, this can't be the thing they're telling us it is.
It's certainly, yeah, that's true, right? Like the scarcity aspect of it for sure is like something that I guess is widely contested, and I guess maybe it's a conspiracy theory or whatever, but it's like at the very least, the supply of it's being controlled by cartels, literally, not, cartel, bad, evil, no, like countries come together. They have an official cartel called OPEC, the Oil and Petroleum Economic Council. I can't even think of what it's called right now. And they control the supply of oil. They could be putting way more out, and it would be a lot easier for people. Prices would be lower, but then companies wouldn't make as much money, and then economies would suffer. And then that's how they justify the whole thing.
Everyone's in on the big game, right? And the anchors are the money and then gas, but oil is also connected to the dollar, like being propped up. The petrodollar system is a big thing too. Yeah. But do you have anything else that you wanted to go down on either of those, Casey?
It's funny you brought up the band thing, because like I brought up Brent Johnson earlier. He was on Macro Voices talking about the same exact concept, and I think he actually brought up the same movie quote, or what you heard that from, like the bandit theory. That's another tangent, but I am glad we wrapped it up on the alien thing, because it's like, look, discernment is going to be that piece that we need in this coming age. I think we had a good like trend throughout the pod here, where we kind of covered, how you can learn more about yourself, who you are, how you can take action like on a daily basis, what not to fall victim to. And then we kind of ended on this whole like conspiratorial thing where it's like, look, we're going to need that discernment now more than ever. Like this is actually when it's more important than ever to take some of these actionable steps. So
love it, man.
Yeah, it was fun. Thank
100%, man. Yeah, I think the big thing we preach here all the time is to stay curious. And I think that you are a living reflection of someone who stays curious. So we appreciate for all the stuff that you do. For anybody who enjoyed Casey's contributions today, definitely go give him some love on his Instagrams. They are linked in the description box down below. So you can go find those, show him a follow. He's always putting out great stuff.
Thanks a ton for coming on, Casey. We appreciate you, man.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Casey. Have a great day, man.
You too, man.
Thanks, you too.
Talk soon. Cheers. All right.
All right.
Chat, I can't pop up. I'll have to look at my phone. Man, this stuff's been bugging.
Yeah. But that was a lot of fun. Something that's going on in the background here is the World Cup. I don't know if you've been following along at all. Ben, have you been following along?
I truly don't give a shit about most sports, but I've been loosely following along because I have the Athletic app, and they forcefully made me follow the games with the widget at the top. So I have been following along, but not by my choice. Ooh. Why does he like soccer?
I don't know what happened to Sipa. But let us know in the chat, Sipa. But so yeah, man. Anyways, it's cool to have those conversations about the state of the things and coming from real people, really dealing with it.
Totally.
And hearing him working 3 jobs out there in Cali, man, that's real.
Totally. Well, if we got nothing else, we can jump into the second half.
Let's do it. I think I've got some news.
Hit me with the news. Did I lose you? You still there?
No, I'm here. Sorry about that.
Just trolling me.
No, yeah, just setting myself up. So first things first, Xbox with some layoffs. So the Xbox CEO, Asha Shar, has announced 3,200 job cuts and studio changes in a major restructuring taking place. You have 4 studios: Compulsion, Double Fine, Ninja Theory, Undead Labs, all moving to new or independent ownership. This has been triggered by apparently weak profits, over expansion, and gaming industry hardware crisis. No announced games being canceled, and they aim to simplify and return to growth in 2027.
Big gaming is going through a massive restructuring of power. So she's also a very recent addition. Like she also didn't come from the gaming world, but she's a very recent appointment to CEO.
Interesting. Yeah. I've never heard of her.
So I think she was in more of the AI world, if I recall correctly, and now she's coming into gaming. But gamers across the board are pretty pissed between the PlayStation announcements of them stopping to doing physical discs of any kind, and then Xbox has been a shit show as well. The state of gaming at large is just in shambles right now. I think a lot of these bigger legacy institutions will fall, and I think we'll get a renaissance of amazing games here in the near future once people start realizing how much easier it is to build a game now. Like you still need people, you still need gifts to share, but a lot of the stuff that made these big development companies necessary in terms of like having so many people for like the grunt work, a lot of that is a lot easier now with AI. So I think there'll be some crazy awesome games coming here soon, but they'll be from way smaller studios.
Yeah, and Asha Shar is coming from Microsoft's Core AI product. She was the president of that.
Yeah, gaming's also a very difficult thing, and it's so as much as everyone's so mad about the microtransaction reality that we're in, gamers also don't want to pay for like a lot of the games that they play. So, bless you. So to get them to actually spend money, they kind of like trick them into doing it, and they turn people into power users through these microtransactions. But it's also because people freak out if you raise the price of games. Like games haven't actually moved that much in price relative to the inflation of almost everything else. And so for that to be the case, obviously they've done that because they realized that they'd lose so many people by doing that. So they make the money back in other ways. But I think a lot of these companies are publicly traded. And so I think that's what's going to create a massive issue for a lot of these companies to try to stay relevant and compete when so many smaller teams can make really, really good games, which will happen here very soon. So yeah, Xbox, PlayStation. I think Nintendo's got the best chance of long-term viability just simply because they've nailed IP development, intellectual property. Like the PlayStation and Xbox had a lot of characters, but nothing that touches the scope
like Mario
of Nintendo's roster. They also own Pokemon to a degree. Like there's the Pokemon company, so I'm not sure what exactly the revenue split is there for that IP growing in terms of what goes directly to Nintendo. But yeah, they've been like character development the whole time. Of course, Xbox has Halo and a few other very strong IPs, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see and follow along. We'll keep you up to date with the future of gaming. What do you got next?
Yeah, so the next piece we have here on the news docket comes from Ripple securing their full EU crypto license.
There's another one.
Yeah, it's kind of hard for me to keep up. It feels like they have all of them already, so it's kind of like, I don't know. But they've received their full CASP authorization under MiCA from Luxembourg's CSSF. This upgrades its June 2026 preliminary approval, enabling regulated crypto services across all 30 EEA countries. Ripple can now offer end-to-end crypto payments to institutions, corporates, and businesses in Europe. And this positions Ripple among a few fully compliant, MiCA compliant firms and rising institutional crypto demand. So yeah, in general, the MiCA regulations apparently just came into effect, I believe, and we're like people were freaking out about Tether and what that meant for them, and apparently the delisting of Tether across the EU. I'm not really sure if that actually happened, but I did see people freaking out about that.
Seems like, yeah, like I'd be interested to see how many more they need.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like they've got almost everything going on, even across the Middle East.
Wild.
So
it's almost go time.
Yeah, man. Next piece. China executes official for massive corruption. Oof. Former Nanjing official Yang Yolin has been sentenced to death for accepting $325 million in bribes over 30 years.
That's a lot of bribes.
He's been convicted of embezzlement, abuse of power, and money laundering while in economic development roles. Part of Xi Jinping's strict anti-corruption drive, targeting high-level graft. And this sparks global debate on harsh penalties versus leniency for officials elsewhere as well.
Dang. Yeah, I don't know much about the story. Obviously, it's being reported by BBC News. So go do your own external research. But it also, the problem with a lot of this stuff is, like, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in, let's say, even in the West that is so evidently corrupt, but they're oftentimes not breaking laws. Right? So it's a very complex issue of where are you, who are you in terms of what was your role. Like the one that I always talk about all the time is like how much money gets spent in the government giving contracts to people who never should have got it. And there should be some degree of accountability for negligence, right? Like when someone hires a company that's never built an app before and you hand them $50 million of taxpayer money, like how does someone not face penalties for that? I don't know.
Super real, man. The next piece that I had, SpaceX rebranding to SpaceX AI, apparently. SpaceX and XAI officially combined under the new SpaceX AI handle and logo on Twitter. Elon Musk companies merge space exploration with advanced AI development, and the announcement features a dramatic glowing logo animation video, and fans are reacting to this unified push toward multi-planetary AI future.
I'm sure that any announcement of aliens would make SpaceX go crazy.
Oh, totally could tie into some alien talk.
But Elon's also been incredibly adamant that they've not seen anything that would lead him to believe there's aliens here. He said that over and over and over again.
Oh, yeah, he did.
Of course, that can change on a dime, but that is what he's said to this point on Rogan's show a bunch of times.
Super true. So if he does flip the scripts, then we'll know why, stock price go up kind of thing. Next, X, Twitter, launches an in-app video editor. Nikita Beer, X's head of product, announces this new video editor and recorder for iOS operating systems. He adds that there are overlaid captions in multiple languages and green screen backgrounds from posts or videos or photos, He aims to help creators make original videos easily inside the app. More video tools coming soon. Demo features this creator here, Emma Stoyer.
They definitely need to give people more tools if they want people to create stuff there. And Nikita also responded to this because people were basically saying it's turning into TikTok. And then his rebuttal to that, I think he said, I'm only going to answer this once, blah, blah, blah. Twitter has become like a cesspool of people stealing other people's content, posting it even like way after. Like we talked about the other day, Keith, where how like people are posting stuff from like months ago and pretending like it's brand new news because they know that if that was news, it would get a lot of engagement. So yeah, right there.
Yes.
5 years after they initially went viral. Yeah, see, right? Like that's a big problem there. It's so funny because if and when crypto becomes a mainstream conversation, Twitter is where that conversation will take place. And so if they don't have these tools there to allow other people to become Twitter people, then they're really dropping that opportunity.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a thin line for sure. I mean, I think Twitter, just because of the fact that they iterate the way that they do, like they have a chance to really be a massively important winner in social media.
Yeah, definitely. Which is, I don't know if that's good or if that's bad, but I do, because right now they have this thing where you're either a Twitter person or you're not. And if I ever send people Twitter things, which I do often, so many times people are like, oh, I don't have a Twitter account.
That's real.
But everyone will make a Twitter account again, man. If like where you make the money from crypto is going down on Twitter, everyone will be there, right?
No doubt about it. That would be the only thing that it would take to get all the rest of the people who just don't participate yet.
Because the conversation doesn't go, like the people on Instagram, even YouTube to a lesser extent, like there's not that many people that still cover this stuff on those platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very, very few. So if there was this mass influx of interest, like there's not even that much content to go around. So yeah, Could have been the plan all along.
That's a really good point too, just from a content perspective. Absolutely. Building those tools in makes it to where you can come here for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a lot of people, and also they've been trying to get the whole compensation piece right for creators, where they actually get paid from their stuff too. 'Cause that's a major problem. Like, people don't grasp how few creators actually make money. I think we talk about it all the time, but I don't think people really realize it. They really, really don't. Like, they think they're pursuing this dream of being a content creator, and most people that are pursuing their dream, they make like no money, even with millions and millions of views.
Most certainly, man. I actually just put out a random post on Instagram today talking about that a little bit, just in terms of like, you're on Instagram getting millions of views, and it's like it's probably not
what?
moving the needle. Yeah.
The real utility of an Instagram following is like what you're experiencing now in terms of the easy access to open conversations. That's really
Totally.
like the primary utility. Of course, if you're selling something and you have a business, that's great. But like just simply being a personal brand, the only real utility of it is like who you can access because you have those followers.
100%. It's pure. It's not pure. It's a lot of vanity though that you can get out of it, and yeah. So, anyways, whereas these are the platforms you can go deeper and
I think
build relationships.
Yeah, I think Twitter, and also their emphasis on live streaming too. I think Twitter and YouTube are the most positioned to really win this next thing. It also kind of seems like whoever runs this thing is falling out of love with Zuck. Like, it seems like
Why do you say that?
Well, he's also made a lot of bonehead moves, but it seems like they're content with being like, your time is over. We now sacrifice. And we move on to someone else and builds either someone up, or Elon's the guy, and then Google's always been the guys, right? So I think that they'd be very cool with like Twitter and YouTube being, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, well, we will definitely see how that continues to play out. The next piece that I have here is an NVIDIA AI compute deal. NVIDIA apparently launched a program letting AI startups access scarce GPUs via cloud partners. The startups trade future revenue share for compute power instead of big upfront payments. NVIDIA gains ongoing revenue streams beyond hardware sales, and investors in AI firms watch closely as it could reshape funding and chip demand. Let's see. Had you seen anything about that before?
No, but in the very near future, we're gonna do a more deep dive on the AI conversation in terms of like the rollout of, is there too much compute now, right? Because like we were told so often about how there's just mass shortage, right? Where we need to rush to build all of this, and then now if a lot of these big time players are kind of pulling back, is there now potentially too much? Because one of them is like giving their excess compute to another one of their competitors, and it's like, where would you do that if there was a shortage? Like, that doesn't make much sense. So that's what I've been looking into. But NVIDIA is obviously going to be the front of a lot of these conversations.
Yeah, and it's fascinating that it's coming down to the compute and not the AI tokens, right? That's an option, at least here, is down to the hardware level where the revenue share is taking place. Because the conversation was just last week, we were talking about if the Alex Karp, the CEO of Palantir, saying, oh, if this is so good, if AI models are so good, then why wouldn't they just get a piece of the business rather than having people pay for it? Okay, well, now instead of it being the software layer, we're talking about the hardware layer company doing that.
It does feel like they may pop the bubble here soon.
So the next piece was Derek Guy. He says, if you train your AI on something I wrote, do I also get revenue share? Okay, which is an interesting one because once again, we're talking about NVIDIA. So it's kind of a weird proposition.
Yeah, that also does beg an interesting question. Like liability and
Yeah.
all that.
So anyways, that was that one. And then we see Strategy selling some Bitcoin for dividend payments. Strategy led by Michael Saylor sold 3,588 Bitcoin for $260 million. The sale funds dividends on its digital credit securities. The company still holds 843,000 Bitcoin. Only 0.42% of it was sold. And the Bitcoin community has been reacting as Saylor breaks his long never sell narrative.
Yeah, strategy is crazy, man. I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. All the Bitcoin guys, it's like I wonder how much they actually love it, or do they just think that they kind of have to keep the whole thing going? I wonder that a lot. But yeah, what are your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, same thing for me, man. It's just like, look, cool experiment, but I don't take my money and just throw it at these kinds of experiments personally.
It seems like asymmetric downside, right? And if you're doing crypto
It's literally that.
in the first place, if you're here for the asymmetric upside, which you're now like getting way more, like equally as much risk, if not way more risk, and you can't win as much. Like, I don't know. So,
Yeah, I was gonna say, I guess you could look at Bitcoin as it's possible that it does go to zero. I guess that's fair, but it's almost like when you open the door to, first off, any equity can go to zero. Period.
mhm.
Right. Then you talk about an equities offering that's purely based upon using leverage to go out and buy a highly volatile asset that's meant to go up forever over the long run. Why would you make that trade?
Yeah, it's a lot of these things that we're seeing around us. It's like, I'm not saying it's a Ponzi scheme, but like it's only ever considered a Ponzi scheme once it falls over.
This guy's selling their Bitcoin to pay off their dividends. Now listen, 0.42%, right? So it's not that big of a deal.
But philosophically, I think it is a big deal because the whole never sell narrative, right? Where he's been saying that so long and so loud. And it's like, if you got people in there because of this philosophical thing, I don't care about the financial maneuverings or like why you have to do it. If you got me here for this and you're changing the rules, it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, it's easier to convince the cult thing. It's harder to convince someone they're in a cult than it is to join a cult.
Yeah, I'm looking at the price of the stock of Strike, and I haven't been watching super closely, but I mean, it's at $60 still, so down pretty low.
Isn't it supposed to sit around
100?
Yeah,
something like that. But it's kind of been a reverse Bitcoin. That thing, it's which it is a dividend yield paying instrument. So yield paying instruments do typically trend downward, but not by 50% over a 6-month period, though.
It is crazy that we have something like Bitcoin that has this much value captured in it. Like,
what do you mean?
Like, this is one of the most interesting things on the planet. Like, no matter what happens, no matter what ends up going on, if you just think about how much of the world is governed by systems and then money and the money that is there to create the systems, like this is a massive, massive deal. Of course, we're desensitized to it because we talk about it all the time. But something like this going on over like the course of human history is like, I don't get why more people aren't like obsessed with this stuff. Obviously we are, but I mean, like, it's just, how could you not be?
Yeah. I guess that kind of brings me to the sentiment of what I was saying about why I don't understand strategy. It's like you're talking about an experiment on top of an experiment.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that because like so many people that want to touch this, they want to touch it in a frictionless experience, which is the antithesis of what was the reason it exists, right?
Yeah.
It's so funny how easy, honestly, when people are comfortable, like I just think that most people become a lot more curious because they don't see the upside for being curious because they're like, oh, I already figured it out, I already won, I'm tapping out, I have a money guy now, and then whatever they do or say to do, I do it.
Yeah, man. Who I would really love to have on here, man. Sharp, we got to go after Preston Fish, because he's really like one of the smarter guys that I've ever listened to. That's just like a massive strategy bull, and maybe he's changed by now, but I've got to understand how, like, he's Warren Buffett lover kind of guy, right? Like that's his whole platform really is built off of being a part of the We Study Billionaires podcast, which is a huge like Warren Buffett like following podcast, and he loves strategy, right? He thinks it's a genius concept, and I've just never understood it from someone who fully understands Bitcoin, because that's Preston's thing, is he's like a Bitcoin maximalist as well. So how do you be I guess that's my thing. How could you really be a Bitcoin maximalist and also invest in strategy? You might understand it and like it and think it's cool, but to invest in it is a whole different thing.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating thing with so many angles. And I do think it'll become increasingly more mainstream, because all it would take is the price going crazy either direction for eyeballs to come back. When it sits in like this kind of like nothing's happening range, no one cares unless you were already here.
Yeah.
What do you got next?
So after that, ladies and gentlemen, it's actually time to react to some stuff. We got some memes.
For the memes.
You're on your own, Ben.
What do you mean?
For me, you're the only one on the screen. But anyways.
Oh, really?
AI will wipe us out, says Roman Yampolsky, who is a University of Louisville computer scientist and AI safety researcher focused on cybersecurity, superintelligence, and the AI control problem. He says the core AI danger is not weak filters today, but future superintelligence humans cannot control indefinitely. Let's hear him say it.
So there's a 99.9% chance artificial superintelligence wipes us out within a century. Why this number, and is that accelerating?
So basically what I'm saying is the problem of controlling general superintelligence is not solvable. It is impossible to solve it. So if we build it, we don't control it, the outcome is bad. That's what I'm trying to say with it. Specific timeline, again, if it decides to give us 200 years, we'll have 200 years. But long term, if we're not in charge, if we're not explicitly assuring our safety and security, then the outcome will be very disappointing.
And you think most likely we're not going to put those guardrails in place?
It is impossible to do so. I'm not saying that we need more time or money. I'm saying it is impossible to indefinitely control general superintelligence. It's like if you ask me, can we build perpetual motion machine? It's not a question of money. It's impossible. Perpetual safety device, by analogy, is also impossible. You cannot have a system which, no matter how much it self-improves, modifies, learns, interacts with malevolent actors, never makes a single mistake.
But I'm talking about now, before we reach that point, right? We can still put some guardrails now, potentially.
For models we have today,
yes,
we can put filters on top of them. That's what we do. We tell them, don't discuss this subject, don't say that word. But that's not the problem we are facing. We are not dealing with concerns exclusively from AIs we have today. They are still subhuman level in many ways. They are mostly tools. Concern is that the paradigm shift is coming. We'll cross the human intelligence barrier, and soon after we'll have superintelligence. That's where traditional AI safety mechanisms will not scale. We have no guardrails on something thousands of millions of times smarter than us.
If I asked you the same thing 10 years ago, 15 years ago, what would you have said?
So in the beginning, I went into AI safety to solve the problem. I wanted to create safe superintelligence. That was the goal. And I think many people did the same. More recently, I would say in the last 5 years or so, many of us started to realize it doesn't even make sense to speak about humans or ants or squirrels controlling godlike machines. And we went back and looked at writings of founding father of machine learning, of AI, of computer science, Alan Turing. He said as much. He said that. The person who proposed singularity as a concept, technological singularity, Vinci, he likewise said around 2023, this process will start and go outside of human control. We have similar statements from Ray Kurzweil, from Elon Musk, from many others. Now we have more of a technical backing. We have papers actually showing that, no, we can't explain how they work. We can't comprehend actually what's going on. We cannot predict specific actions, and we cannot control them.
I feel like this ties pretty directly into what we've been talking about in this episode, Keith, where it's like, that's that belief system of this like fear and state for something that I don't know if it's as theoretical as they make it sound. Like I feel like a lot of this is still philosophical, no?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that's been super interesting about really computer science in general is kind of can be like that, I guess, especially in the AI world. But yeah,
because
how much of this is science?
I think less than they would admit. But I said a while ago, and I still think it's true. I think they'll let us believe that we put a lid on it, and I think that was always the case because they knew that it couldn't become what they're saying that it can become. So then, like, we get a win by saying we put a lid on it. So, yeah, I'm really, and again, I'm an idiot. I don't know like the inner workings of machine learning. So like, I'm purely going off vibes here, but I don't believe in this whole artificial general intelligence thing.
Wow.
Or I definitely don't think we experience it in anything close to the timelines that they're referencing, if that is something that's possible. But his whole argument of it's something that you couldn't control, of course, that's like, if it's artificial general intelligence, I think they're insinuating that it'd be close to having complete and utter free will, right? And then if that's the case, like, could you control a human, right? If there is free will or autonomy, then of course you can't. And then also, like, if there is orders of magnitude higher levels of education, yeah, like how could we even think that we could possibly control that? We wouldn't even know the game it was playing.
Yes. Yeah, that's a really good point. And yeah, if it's human, then would you be able to easily just control it? It's an interesting thought. Some people don't believe in free will at all.
Do you?
I haven't thought about it enough.
Well, when you do, let me know. What do you got next?
Trump apparently built a crypto corruption machine. Let's hear Chris Murphy, a Democratic U.S. Senator from Connecticut, talking about what this has looked like.
To September of 2025. In September, we start to learn the danger of Donald Trump's crypto corruption. I covered this in the first 100 days of corruption. This is maybe the most corrupt thing that Trump is doing. He and his family own a crypto company that issues several crypto coins. There's no disclosure on who is buying those coins. The president promotes them. He invites people to official events who purchase the coin. On September 18th, though, we come to find out that Trump made $57 million selling crypto tokens to entities associated with the regimes in North Korea, Iran, and Russia. Extraordinary investments being made by entities that are tied in with North Korea, Iran, and Russia into Trump's crypto companies. It begs the question, as we are currently debating an Iran deal that basically exists on Iran's terms, why was there a flood of money from Iranian regime-backed entities into the Trump crypto companies? Why were they putting that investment in? What did they expect to get from the president? We've never, ever before had this exist. We've never had a backdoor mechanism by which foreign governments could just shovel money into the pocket of the president. It exists because of the Trump's meme coin and his stable coin. On September 23rd, this is a week later, it's now pretty obvious that there's a pay-to-play regime in charge of the White House. A week later, on September 23rd, Donald Trump closes the books on a criminal investigation into one of his key advisors, Tom Homan. This is his border czar. The FBI had caught Tom Homan red-handed, engaging in naked corruption. Undercover agents had handed him $50,000 in cash in a bag, and he agreed to give them government contracts. This was on video. This is the border czar getting a bag of cash in exchange for contracts on video, but the administration on September 20th just makes the investigation go away because that kind of bribery, that kind of naked graft is okay in this White House.
To be doing this kind of crazy stuff all the time, you got to think that they know something we don't.
Who's they in this situation?
Like, let's say the administration, right? Like, to be doing all of these things. Because I think through, like, okay, what is there really no thought going on here? And they're just like, okay, so we can get away with this stuff, so we're doing it. Or do they know that it won't matter by the time it comes to roost? Or like,
right. That's how I look at it. It's like he's not gonna. The way that I look at this activity is that there will not be another presidency after this. Like they're running this thing. That's how I look at it. I'm not saying that's what's gonna happen, but I don't know how else you could do this because as soon as you come out of office, you're gonna have all these people coming at you if you were to come out of office.
Yeah, you definitely would think. So it's and yeah, there's a lot of games being played. Obviously, we had Tom on here not too long ago who he thinks that Trump is still playing a degree of like 4D chess of some kind to do all this stuff. So I don't know about that, but we'll see. Like, it's hard to believe that that's the case, but yeah, it's we as crypto people, like when people were so amped that Trump got in, it's like you think about how differently that went for the average crypto consumer is pretty insane. The only one who made money was Trump himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tough.
It's super wild, man. It's like, I don't know, like anybody who's still on the Trump train, I think they just have here. There's one human piece to it, which is the I don't know, like not wanting to shift, right? Not wanting to change and say that you were wrong about something.
Sunk cost.
The sunk cost
huge, right? Because especially because how many people have basically said that supporting him was a dumb idea from the start, right?
Right.
And so at this point, people dig in more, right?
Totally.
So yeah, I'm sure a lot of the people that are still there, I don't think there's anything that would make them not, because there'd be some sort of story that they could come up being like, no, you just don't understand the game being played. And yeah, time will tell, hopefully, but it's insane to watch from the outside at the very least.
Yeah. And it feels like before this time around, there was like enough plausible deniability of like, you know, like, I don't know, like for instance, I hate to put it this way, but like the claims of Donald Trump being a racist. All right, let's put it on the line. Everybody come at me. Let's go. Like, can you really point to his words at least and say that he's a racist? I think it's hard to point to his words. I think there's things that he's done, right, that are in court cases around like the way that he's handled his real estate properties and things of that nature. I've seen stuff about that, but like a lot of the times when he's saying things that racist people latch onto, he's not actually saying anything racist. He's saying something that these racist people are then making about race and making it like racist. Which to say that, does he enable racist? Yes, 110,000%. Does he knowingly enable racist? 125,000%. But like, if you actually objectively look at the things that have come out of his mouth, can you say that Donald Trump said this and this is why he's racist? I think it's hard to say. And my point is not that I'm making that claim that he's not racist or that I'm making the claim that he hasn't said things that are racist. I'm sure he has, because he says all kinds of stuff. But my point is, in general, before this presidency, there was a lot of like things like that in other areas as well, where it's like, yeah, like you kind of can't really fully say that like he's bad or he's done this thing wrong. Whereas now it's like, it's much harder to try to build a case to say that like he's not making a bunch of money off of the presidency, as an example. Like it's kind of very well documented. It's very obvious. He literally launched a meme coin right before he got into office.
That shit was crazy.
Like crazy. So, so anyways, that was my point. My greater point. I'm not saying Trump's not a racist. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
People will come at you. I think your video is frozen, by the way.
Oh no.
If you want to refresh the tab, because it is for me at least. I don't know if it's for other people, but looking at YouTube right now,
yeah,
you're stuck mean mugging for me. You're like, but fixing code and dog whistles direct, but anything actions speak much louder. Yeah, it is. You're back, I think, but yeah, it's, dude, it's crazy. Like we made a clip of Tom saying that he still trusts Trump or whatever. And like 2 or 3 people were like, I'm unsubscribing now. It's like, you're
Wait, what
unsubscribed.
happened?
So I made a clip on the Clips channel, like why I still trust Trump from Tom, like quoting him, right?
Right.
And then people are like, I'm unsubscribing from the channel. Like, it's not even our opinion, buddy. Like it's I was like, I wish you well, Godspeed, man. But yeah, it's it is wild to see how one could become as controversial as he is.
I'm seeing some pretty good stuff in the chat too.
Yeah, feel free to go down any thread.
Yeah, so Brian Mario, you make such a good point here, dude, because this is why I was willing to make that statement. He said the bar for what's considered racist is so effing low that now anyone can just throw that around and it means absolutely nothing. So because that was the problem with it. Like even in the first presidency, like that was really when I was like, okay, guys, like he's talking about a nationality, which is and then someone, okay, let me follow it up because someone else said something really smart too. Sam I Am said he's a dog whistler. And like that is a good point, right? Like that is what it is. He's not actually saying anything that's that bad at the time or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But he is very knowingly activating these people who do have these messed up beliefs and who will come out and vote for him because he's saying it out loud, even though he's not. And he's just talking to you so that you hear it in the pitch, right, in which you're receiving it at. Whereas he can now say, well, but I didn't say this. That's just what they heard. And takes me back to the book, Words That Work. Frank Lutz, who is a political strategist. It's not what you say, it's what people hear, right? And so anyways, I just thought those were really good points, because the idea of the bar for what's racist also is being so low. It's like, it just makes it so much harder to actually have conversations about what real stuff is, because now you're calling everything that, and now the stuff that is actually a problem is able to just be, it looks like it's not anymore, you know?
How did that take place?
I don't know how that took place, man. Trump definitely played a massive role in it. Like that was definitely when that happened, because it's like, oh, he's racist and all these people are racist. Any Trump supporter is racist. And it's like, brother, like now we got real racists out here doing real racist stuff. And you're not paying attention to them. You're not coming at them because you're talking about somebody agreeing with Trump or being able to, willing to even vote for Trump makes them racist. It's like, dude, I don't know if you can do it that way. And then don't get me into the conversation around his opponents and the things that they do that might be considered racist and so on and so forth. You know, we won't do that. But it's just like, and it's crazy because like I'm able to sit here and do this and try my best to have this conversation, knowing, once again, admitting that Trump has absolutely fooled everyone who would have ever tried to support him at any point in the past 2 years.
like saying what he was going to do, he didn't do those
He
things.
didn't do it.
Yeah.
He's completely messed people up. I saw his bumper sticker when I was back home. It's a bumper sticker. He says, "Are we great yet?" Because I'm just embarrassed at this point.
That's good. I think that captures sentiment pretty well. But yeah, it's a crazy thing to watch what has transpired in terms of how controversial he is. And it's crazy. And I saw Lucas saying some stuff about this in the chat where basically Lucas was saying it's ridiculous that you have to give any disclaimers when you're talking about things like this, but it's so charged for people that if you just mention the name, that kind of feeling gets created. It's kind of wild.
Yeah,
like
dude.
He's basically like the boogeyman.
Yeah, it's quite a phenomenon. And then like, I like to play with people about it. Since 2016, I've always played with people about it because it's like, there's no way, obviously, that you would ever like or support or whatever. And so like it's just fun because it's like, okay, what if I did? Then what? You know what I'm saying? Like, what would that do to your perspective of me? What would that do to like, you know what I'm saying? And it's fun, bro. So even when I'm traveling and stuff, it's like, oh, because like I've told Ben, it's like it just comes up every time. Oh, you're an American, like, oh, a Trump guy. And I'm just like, wow, it's so fascinating. Like I don't actually have
It dominates every headline.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, people have very strong opinions, and I think that I don't know. I don't know how many of them are constructive across the board, but we can move on to the next story.
And then Lucas said, "It makes me sad that you're hesitant and heavy on disclaimers when talking about things that should be completely free of judgment in the idea of our First Amendment." Yeah, I agree. I just know that we're talking about the most touchy thing, which is Trump.
Yeah, I don't think anything's really like, yeah, it's what's even close to that on a mass scale.
So it's like, but it's so wild too, because I'm so glad for this community of people because I do feel comfortable actually having that conversation. I wouldn't have this conversation in real life. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I can do it here with you guys because I know you'll listen and that nuance matters as we talk about all the time. You guys will listen for that. But speaking of nuance matters, Esco J215, he says, "I need Keith to explain this goose down coat that he's wearing." And then Robbie tried to say, he's in Brazil and it's winter. And then Esco said, "Yeah, but he's indoors. What's that about?"
They don't have heating?
Nuance matters. There's no heat in here, ladies and gentlemen. So
Wow.
I'm in a very open space. It's cold outside. And I have a little electric heater, but the sound is ridiculous. So I have it off for this. So I put the coat on. You heard it? I had to figure out how to get my shower to work too, because my shower was also giving me like some lukewarm water and it's cold. So that was like really making my existence a little bit miserable because there's no way to get away from the cold if there's no hot water, you know what I mean? But now we figured that out. Anyways, we definitely have some more stuff to react to. So let me get back on track. Oops. Okay, so Simon Dixon says that Bitcoin can't be controlled. Simon Dixon is a Bitcoin investor, author, co-founder of Bank to the Future, focused on Bitcoin finance and the monetary system. Let's hear what he had to say.
So Bitcoin then basically said you can own your own value, but it's digital. You can send it to whoever you want as long as you self-custody it. And the monetary policy is enforced by a decentralized network of miners and nodes that can never change it. And so therefore, there'll only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. People lose it over time when they lose access to the keys. And so effectively, 20 million Bitcoins have already been mined. There's only another million to be mined. And so you can plan out the monetary policy anytime into the future and know that more and more people will probably lose those Bitcoin because they lost the key or died or didn't plan how to pass it on. And so it is a fixed supply. Now, where did Bitcoin come from? What is the construct? Well, it is open source code, which is an anonymous developer released a white paper called Satoshi Nakamoto. And a bunch of developers came around and started being involved in coding it. The early developers were people like Hal Finney and Gavin Andreessen and various others. anyone can mine those Bitcoins, which is geographically distributed around the world now with countries that hate each other. Iran is the largest sovereign Bitcoin miner with nuclear energy mining Bitcoin. UAE is another big Bitcoin miner. Russia is. America has about 20 different public companies that collectively manage 40% of the hash rate. China has 21% of the hash rate by companies in China. And then it's geographically diversified all around the world. So that network can never be taken down. And it is now the largest distributed supercomputer that exists in the world today. It is also, the rules are enforced by anybody that wants to run a node. And it's cheap to run a node. As long as you self-custody your Bitcoin, you can connect it to a node, and then you can verify your own transactions, and you can store the entire history, and you can contribute to enforcing the rules whenever any of the coders try to change it, or the miners want to push and signal a new change. And there's 25,000 of those nodes around the world, run by anyone that wants to run one very, very cheaply. And that's 25,000 sovereign people that can control their own value, send their own value, and know that the monetary policy will never change. But it is digital. It does rely upon energy. And so there are choke points, and people look at choke points and say, okay. So Satoshi Nakamoto, this anonymous person, created Bitcoin. Why? And you can theorize. I don't know. I've got my own theory of why. But if you go back to that time, there was a movement to try and create digital currencies from the cypherpunk movement. One of those attempts was DigiCash. DigiCash was created by a guy called David Chom. And David Chom was in Netherlands teaching at a university to other cypherpunk cryptographers. One was called Len Sassaman. Len Sassaman was assassinated. Let me correct that. He killed himself and allegedly committed suicide.
He got suicided.
Well, again, my belief, I want to be respectful of the dead and his family. But he allegedly committed suicide 1 month after the developer that Satoshi Nakamoto handed the project over to, Gavin Andresen, met with the CIA. 1 month after, Len Sassaman lost his life, and so did Hal Finney, the first one to ever mine a Bitcoin and contribute to that. Gavin Andresen is still alive today, but he went off into another project. He forked off Bitcoin and tried to create an alternative version of Bitcoin, and left the Bitcoin community. But the point is, I personally believe that Satoshi Nakamoto was Len Sassaman. There's significant evidence to that effect. And I believe that it was created from his mentorship by David Chom in Netherlands. And Hal Finney was the one that most likely was involved in the coding, while Len Sassaman probably released the white paper.
Keith?
Well, Ben, you and I have talked about this quite a bit in the back end in terms of whether or not Bitcoin is can be controlled, or whether it's the thing, that's the answer to all of our problems. But, I think that it's just so funny that I'll never get over the fact that Bitcoin's creator not being known is a good thing to the Bitcoin maximalists.
It's a fantastic thing. Why would it not be good?
Because you literally don't know. And therefore it could be anyone. You cannot definitively tell me that it wasn't an intelligence organization with a motive of their own. You can't.
But it couldn't have spread if there was a central source. I just lost your camera.
Oh, no, mate. That's problematic.
But I think for it to have reached this point in general, it had to be faceless.
I think that's a possible claim. I think that's possible. But now, once again, it's just if we're talking zeros and ones, there's a non-zero chance that it was created by an intelligent entity. And if it had been known who it was, there's a non-zero chance that it didn't matter. There's a non-zero chance that it did not matter who created Bitcoin. So it could be public and that not have made a difference is my point.
So you'd feel better about the whole thing if there was someone you could talk to about it? Where's your head?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, like if you could look at it and try to, if you could say, oh, I know what this person's motives could have been. I know their history. I know something. You know what I'm saying? Like, is the dude even alive? Could he sell? Like, he could sell his Bitcoin if we don't know if he's alive or not. Some people think that doesn't matter. Okay, fine. Maybe that doesn't matter. But I don't know. Yeah, it's just like, shoot, bro. I don't know. I don't think that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a wildly fascinating thing that I think more and more people are going to become educated on it. I went back and listened to Joe Rogan having on Antonopoulos on his podcast, another Bitcoin dude, and yeah, I think it'll become one of the conversations here very soon again. I think Simon Dixon. I think it's not long until Simon Dixon ends up on Rogan, and I think that episode I think will be very telling, right? Because a lot of people believe that Joe is either knowingly or unknowingly compromised. And I think that Simon, if Simon is who he's saying he is, right, would be one of the people that could pull it out. Why are you shaking your head?
I don't think he could make the cut, dude.
Of what?
He just exposes too much.
Yeah, so you think he'd be too much of a liability to have on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think Joe could have him on, bro.
Could that not be a way to silence the critics saying he's compromised by having him on?
It would be. It would be. So if Joe Rogan fails to have Simon Dixon on, he's compromised.
Yeah.
Especially, like, actually at this point, it's actually not that crazy. He's been on Impact Theory. He's been on, what are the other ones? Has he been on DOAC yet? Not DOAC yet.
Not yet. He will.
But he could definitely get on there.
Yeah.
Because Steven's not compromised.
Yeah, I don't know if he has any sort of traveling issues, though, because I think he's from the UK, but he doesn't live there anymore. So I'm not sure that logistics may become a problem. But yeah, he was on Impact Theory. That episode has around 750,000 views. And then the other show that he was on, that's what's his name? His show's in Britain, so he could definitely go to Diary of a CEO. The other guy, Peter McCormack, is that his name?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, he went on his, and that's at like 1.1 something mil.
Which is awesome.
Between just those two podcasts, you're sitting on close to 2 million views. And I wouldn't imagine there's like a crazy overlap of those people either. Like probably some, maybe like 20 to 30%, but maybe a little higher. But I feel like that's a decent amount of people.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, Impact Theory is Impact Theory. I actually don't know who watches that. I know I've watched it in the past, but it's a really weird mix because he's kind of like mainstream, but he's not like DOAC though at the same time, you know.
So Orlando thinks that Simon is the psyop.
I mean, he's definitely a Bitcoin maximalist.
Yeah.
So I'll give you that.
Mm-hmm.
If that's a psyop, then he's a part of that psyop.
It'll be what, man. Like think of the Diary of a CEO debates, or hopefully our show becomes the place where these debates happen. But like that round table discussion of the future of money.
Yeah,
like, you can already kind of tell who the figures will be. It'll be like Simon. I think Jeff will be one of those characters. Jeff Booth. I think Charles will claw his way in there. Hopefully Vitalik. I never really hear from Vitalik.
No, he does stay pretty quiet. I mean, I think because he knows how much impact he has.
True.
He used to just be a kid, you know, just doing this thing, but now he's like, all right, like I need to shut up because and plus, you know, he's got his gifts and stuff, so he probably knows that, you know, he's probably. I mean, he's not some incredible orator like Charles, at least. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, that definitely lends more towards Charles's skill set. But who else would be involved in those conversations? Could you imagine?
I think you've got a good point. I think Charles is a great speaker. I think he has a great desire to solve the problem, a lot of passion. The Jeff Booths / Simon Dixons as well, very great at articulating their viewpoints.
What about Sergey?
Sergey
Nazarov?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it'd be interesting to hear him, and he's very like, you know, suit and ties, so he could definitely be a part of those conversations. In fact, he should be, because he's clearly not a Bitcoin maximalist, right? So what does that look like? You
I think
know,
you need some of those counter forces too, for sure. And I think that from what I've seen, he's pretty well spoken.
oh yeah, for sure. He's very suit and tie. He's Brad Garlinghouse in that sense of like being able to. He's not that suited, you know. Brad Garlinghouse is like,
In
you
there.
know, buttoned up suit. But Sergey definitely is that kind of a nerd to where he can also be the CEO. What was I gonna say? Yeah, so like you had a round table with, keep Brad out of it because he's too political essentially. Sergey Nazarov, Charles Hoskinson, Jeff Booth, and then we need like the guy who we just had on.
Tom,
we need like a Tom Luongo in there too,
like a wild card.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, I look forward to seeing those discussions. I don't think they're that far away, but we shall see. Hopefully you're there, Keith.
Oh no, dude. But well, because I mean, what would I say? I wouldn't be. We have to keep having these conversations first. Like, we should have them here, because I've just got so many questions for the Bitcoin people that I actually legitimately have questions. Like, not, you know, I know the answer and want to understand, like, I need you to tell me why, but like, I actually don't fully understand, you know?
Yeah. Oh, totally. Across the board, for like a lot of the things that we discuss, I have so many questions that I want to ask firsthand to these people, and there's not that many spaces for that to take place. So we will hopefully become a space for that, but it'll be interesting to see what does it, because like, obviously we've been trying to facilitate these conversations, but it's like our show isn't big enough for them to say yes, right? But as soon as we have the guaranteed viewership, then it instantly becomes that. So that's a not so subtle request for engagement, shares, all that stuff. Help us get these conversations rocking. But yeah, man. What else you got for me?
Yep. I also didn't know that he was Muslim, says beating the odds. But that does align with the way that he moves, at least. Let me see. All right, next piece we have here is NVIDIA's AI Money Loop. Ed Zitron is a tech critic, writer, PR executive, and host of the Better Offline podcast. He makes the claims that NVIDIA is using circular finance to make GPU demand look stronger by backing the same customers buying its chips. All right, let's hear him say it.
I think it's something more evil than that. I think that, by the way, at the end of this era, we need to make circular finance illegal. I think we need to end this, because what NVIDIA is doing is NVIDIA is saying, if you buy our GPUs, we will guarantee to rent them back. And he's specifically saying it to new neo cloud types. This should be illegal. I just really want to be clear. This is not real. And also, this is what you do when real demand doesn't exist. And the bulls, the mold poisoned, whomever, will say, well, actually, it's just NVIDIA giving reassurances to customers and the demand exists. Like, oh, Professor X about it. Oh, I've worked this out. I've got the solution. No, this is an act of desperation by NVIDIA, knowing that we don't have a functional SEC at the moment to say, hey, are you round tripping? Which round tripping is illegal. You're not meant to do it. Are you round tripping? But what they do is they do it at such small amounts, it kind of goes, it's under the radar, even though it's reported in the information. NVIDIA is doing this because the compute demand doesn't exist. Like, it's that simple. It's not a complex point. People want to make it complex. People want to turn it into this whole thing. Oh, it's just how supply works. It's like, no, this is what you do when you know no one's going to rent these damn things. And I also think it has something to do with debt, because CoreWeave, Nebius, Iron, all the neo clouds, the way that they raise money now is they take a contract from a hyperscaler. So Meta, let's say Meta says we're going to pay Nebius 17 billion or what have you. They take that to the bank. They go, look, we have a big, sexy cloud provider. We're going to provide the compute to these people with guaranteed money. And then the bank goes, oh, well, they're going to have guaranteed money, so we'll give you the loan. NVIDIA has done this already with CoreWeave. They literally gave a contract. They agreed to buy back CoreWeave's supply so that they could raise money to build to buy more GPUs to put in the data center. Again, this should be illegal. This is really bad.
Any initial thoughts? I've got more clips from him.
Yeah, well, the circular financing thing has been a massive part of the story the entire time, but it's also becomes like the problem of who else would be the customer too. So it does create some, but I agree with a lot of what I was saying. I do think that there's a lot of laws that make things not illegal that will inevitably lead to bad outcomes. And this is just one of them. But sure, let's see the next clip you've got.
Totally. Yep. So this next piece comes down to OpenAI's impossible compute trap. Ed says that reports of AI cutting inference costs looks limited to logged out ChatGPT traffic, not proof that it solved AI economics. So let's hear what he said.
OpenAI engineers earlier this month told some colleagues that they figured out a way to more than half the cost of inference. But then it goes on to say, when the engineers applied the new techniques to power ChatGPT for visitors who didn't have a free or paid account, it's just like, no, they haven't halved the cost of inference. They have found a technique to halve it in one situation, maybe. If OpenAI had actually found this, they'd do a blog. Sam Altman would make an annoying lowercase tweet about it. When they talked about a jalapeno chip with Broadcom that may or may not reduce costs, they were playing saxophone out in Times Square. Not literally. They were excited and they were talking about it. They would go on CNBC and say this. It wouldn't be what appears to, I'm guessing, be a Slack conversation which someone got sent. What I think this is likely someone on Slack in OpenAI went, hey, I might have found a way to half it. I tried this one thing. What do you think? And that blew up. Even the AI boosters were like, this is a nothing burger. When they are saying that, you know it's nothing. As here's the thing. I don't think that OpenAI magically found a way to half inference. I don't think that happened. I really don't, because they would make a much bigger deal. It would be a big deal. But you're right. If they actually did this, it would mean they needed less compute, which would lower their demands for compute. This is the thing now. We're in this weird situation where everyone wants them to reduce their costs, but if they reduce their costs, they reduce the need for AI compute, which means we've overbuilt the supply. But if they don't reduce their costs and they need all that compute supply, they need endless venture capital and debt, which will run out. And it appears that they're just going to linearly need more compute for the rest of time. Great. We've just got two unsustainable tracks going on. And now this growth of open source models that's scary to them. And we can talk about Sonnet 5 if you want, but there is just a certain degree here of no one has a solution to any of these problems. We either have so much demand from two companies that means that we need to funnel them money forever, or these companies will find efficiency gains, which will mean they don't need as much compute, which will mean that we've built way too much compute because the demand doesn't exist outside of them.
From the beginning, a lot of this didn't make sense unless we were bought in on this AGI eventual reality that would solve all these problems. But the finances are real problems as long as we're still operating within the same financial system, which is a big one. And one thing that I've thought about a lot about lately too, Keith, is that when we had on the Wall Street Skinny, that's what it's called, right? Their show, where they talked about the private credit market, right? And those potential issues and that potentially being bubble-esque. How much of that is also intertwined with AI?
Right.
Because like if they both take each other down, dude, that'd be the biggest. Like that could be so catastrophic to the economy. It would almost like necessitate a brand new system, which would basically be a reset.
Yeah. Totally. In fact, I don't know how that wasn't. Maybe it was part of the conversation, and I just don't remember. But because it definitely is.
I'd imagine. Where else are they getting the money?
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I just heard something.
Yeah, I heard some stuff too. But yeah, Ed's going to continue to become a bigger and bigger voice in this whole debate. We would love to have you on, Ed, for sure. But a lot of these things were like sketchy from the outset. But when you're building a god and everyone's so confident around the thing that is being built, people just are able to continue to move forward, which is for another display of, I think, broken systems, broken structures, all that stuff. And what breaks that whole thing, who knows? But it also does seem, I don't recall, I guess Fable, never mind. I was gonna say I don't recall anything that was like that groundbreaking being released all that recently. I guess Fable was a big thing. I was playing around with it the other day. I was not that impressed.
Oh, wait a minute.
I wasn't.
Watch your mouth.
Are you a big Fable guy?
No. Man, that was almost not funny. I felt for you because I'm not in the States.
FBI would.
You're not either, so
Yeah.
that doesn't work.
Yeah.
But the headphones mess with you. All right. These are some good headphones, bro.
Yeah.
All right,
No kidding.
Sounds real. All
But
right,
the circular financing is so crazy. The chart that was super famous a few months ago, obviously very alarming, and yeah, like the final state of. The scariest part is that it's pretty well guaranteed to be screwed, right? Because if they do find efficiencies, they overbuilt. If there's not the demand, they overbuilt. Either way, they overbuilt, as Ed was saying. How could this end well? I don't think it can.
No, not for the everyday person, at least. I'll tell you that. Might as well for Sammy.
Is it Altman?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like if you were to coordinate a wipeout of the system, which like every Great Depression or recession or whatever is fairly coordinated, like this would be pretty masterful. So we shall see. What else you got for me?
The U.S. Strategic Bitcoin Reserve has got a little bit of an update. The White House just confirmed that the government is actively structuring its strategic Bitcoin reserve and crypto stockpile. The initiative stems from Trump's March 2025 executive order creating the reserve would seize Bitcoin. This involves the Treasury, Secretary of Commerce, and other agencies formalizing custody and legal framework. The crypto community cares as it could boost Bitcoin legitimacy and prices over the long run.
Yeah. I don't like when the government gets involved with any of it, but they obviously will. They have to. But I'm curious to see with this whole Trump accounts if crypto or Bitcoin becomes part of that as well.
Yeah, that's something that was also a part of the conversation. I think he was asked about that like in a jokingly kind of way, but it came up during them talking about some of this. Let me go ahead and pull it up real quick. Yeah, so here we go. Play a quick clip about some of this.
Is Bitcoin in any way going to be related to this in the future? Are there plans to put Bitcoin into Trump accounts?
Well, I've become a big crypto guy only for one reason. If we don't have it, China's going to have it, and they would like to have it. But now they're not even trying that hard because we've taken over crypto. But I'm a fan. I wasn't initially. I didn't know much about it. But for some of my first term, I wasn't much involved, but I'd watch. And I watched it grow, and it's a huge industry. And I got involved in a little bit for politics, because I realized there are a lot of people about crypto. And even me as a businessman, I'd see a lot of money starting to come in with Bitcoin.
What did you say?
I said a little bit, like laughing a little bit. Sorry, go ahead.
Bitcoin and, the different forms. And I said, this thing's got a lot of life. And then I hear China was going to make a heavy move on it, just like they do for AI. By the way, we're leading China substantially in AI, by substantial. And
can you pause it for a second?
One of the reasons is that
they always look so uncomfortable behind the
because they don't know what he's going to say, bro.
I know. Like Buddy over his left shoulder, I guess like our right, his left shoulder, he looks like he's looking around like crazy. If you go back a little bit, like watch his eyes, man, he looks so concerned. And then as soon as he's like, yeah.
There's my Brad back there.
Is that guy's name Brad?
Brad Gerstner.
He's on the All In Pod sometimes, right?
Yeah, and did BG2 with Bill Gurley. So anyways, yeah, that's the idea of what's going on. And yeah, man, because I know I empathize with like this dude can say anything at any moment. So if I'm like nodding or something, like I got to be ready to stop my nod, because you don't know what he's gonna say.
That's very true.
Like Jesus.
And Artie said, "What's going on with the Clarity Act? Depends who you ask. The poly market odds were pretty bad
They were supposed to go to some markup thing or whatever, like over the weekend for July 4th. But
Yeah, I heard someone saying that they heard some good things from a very good insider source, and that jumped the odds on Polymarket, which obviously we don't condone using their platform. What?
I don't know. I just think that's just crazy that that's the state of the world. Like, I've heard from an inside source that it's gonna get passed, and then
It jumped up.
our market moves.
It moved huge from 40 to 55.
You know, so it's like who stands to benefit from that, right? Someone literally stands to benefit from that now.
Mhm.
That's what I'm saying.
It's
really.
messed up. truly messed up. It's kind of gross the more that you think about it. But yeah, man.
Yeah, so my next story is going to require me to open up a new tab because my Twitter's glitching. But Vitalik, speaking of him, has announced Ethereum looking toward a lean upgrade. He's unveiled Lean Ethereum, the network's biggest rebuild since the 2022 merge. This is a multi-year plan that overhauls core protocol for speed, privacy, and quantum resistance. These changes roll out gradually without breaking existing apps or smart contracts. Traders and developers watch closely for the impact on ETH scalability and fees.
Also, Tom Lee's going on another podcast circuit talking about his bullish calls for ETH. So we'll see. But I still think that ETH will have a very good next 12 months. So we'll see. But ETH is Tom is certainly saying it. But
yeah,
what are we looking for?
No, I was just about to pull up the price of Ethereum right now.
1800.
It's in the dirt.
Almost exactly. Yeah, 1784.
But anyways, so yeah, that's going on in the world, folks. See what happens. I mean, obviously, Ethereum's gonna have to do something if it's gonna be used as an institutional grade level thing.
Yeah, well, apparently that it already is. Just we don't know as much what it will look like, but we're gonna learn.
We're gonna learn soon. Midnight developer surge. So apparently, Lauren Lee of Midnight Network shares a 2-year growth stats from the Electric Capital report. So Midnight now has 190 active developers, up 192% in 2 years. Full-time developers have grown 227% over 3 years. And privacy-focused blockchain. This is a privacy-focused blockchain attracting and retaining more builders. So, yeah. So Midnight Network, we've had the president of the Midnight Foundation, Fahmy, come on. And Midnight is a privacy-focused blockchain, a part of the Cardano ecosystem, if you aren't familiar. And apparently, they have a lot of developers that are working on it, which is a really, really big thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
With tech like this, you need to create the experiences that make this shine, like that let this shine. It's kind of like an ironic choice of words because you're trying to block things out. But this could, like, if you create the right experience, this stuff could become very obvious to people, like what this is, why it's important, and then creativity can fly, right? Like, think of the differentiator that this creates if consumers know that they can demand things like this within their experiences, right? Like, think of the excuses that removes from a lot of these bigger entities. So a lot of work to do. 190 developers is not enough to get there, but it sounds like a start.
Yeah. And that is the big part, though, of the story in my eyes, is like when you're building an open source project, there's no guarantee that anybody's going to come and build, right? So for you to attract people to come and build on it, that alone is a massive statement, because what it means is that there's people who actually believe in this future.
Yeah. And Cardano has been taking their communications for their community off of Twitter to be more direct within Discord. And there's a Midnight specific Discord that I'm in that Charles obviously loves it in there because it's a lot less open in terms of Twitter, and people that are in there obviously care a lot more. And so a lot of the builders are in that Discord. So anyone can go join it. I recommend going in there, see what's going on, see what's being built. But they're also building the game called Midnight City. Have you ever seen that, Keith?
No.
You're frozen on my end, but I don't know if that's the case for anyone else. But you might be good. Let me see. He's good. You're good. You're good. Yeah, okay, you're back. Cool. So Midnight City is this game that they've built where if they can pull this off, this could be truly massive. So we'll definitely see. But I have a lot of questions. Like when we were supposed to have Charles back on pretty recently, but he decided to not do interviews. I got this here. So let me share my screen now. Share Midnight City. Can y'all see it? Keith?
Yeah, I see it.
Cool. So this is a game that's built upon Midnight, and it's the first AI MMORPG. What does MMO stand for? I know RPG is role-playing game that plays itself, you direct. So basically, when you create an account, you create an agent that goes and lives within the city, and it's kind of like Sims, right? But I think maybe, obviously, actually, I don't know anything's obvious, so maybe I shouldn't talk like that. But it could be something that attracts people who are into a game like Sims, and you do have some sort of control directionally of what your avatar or agent becomes, and they go on and live a full-on life within this, right? So you claim you're a citizen, you make them look like you or whatever you want them to. They live without you, and you can step in and direct them when it matters. So it'll be super interesting to see if they start getting a lot of users for this. The whole reason for why they're doing this, Keith, is because they're going to basically, they've built an in-game ecosystem where a lot of the Midnight tech is built into how these avatars interface. So people could see firsthand the utility of something like this. So
very
like
cool.
simulating real world transactions. Like let's say you and I were interfacing on something where we wanted selective disclosure on something. This would apparently show what that looks like. How that's done, I'm not entirely sure. I haven't made my avatar and all that, but this is something they've been actively working on. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they can attract a user base. This used to look a lot like it was made by a crypto company, but now they've remodeled it so that you can't really tell that it's crypto.
Love it.
Which
Thank
is
God.
needed. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, guys.
100%.
Why would you want to market a blockchain game versus a game?
Yeah.
Like, don't do
100%.
that.
Yeah. I think gaming will come back in a very major way, and people will see why this kind of stuff matters, but they can't know what's in there.
Yeah, dude. Don't tell them.
So MMO stands for massive multiplayer. Thank you, Esco.
Awesome.
Cool.
It's a massive multiplayer. Cool. Next piece. This is actually a really important point because this is something we were talking about earlier. So Trump said that he wants to remove tax on Bitcoin and crypto transactions. And Crypto Rover posted this like this was news, but it wasn't news. This is something that happened last year. So this is what happens on the internet, guys. We have to be super, super careful.
So annoying.
But yeah. So honestly, that page is worth blocking. I probably will block them because it's just, I used to have to do that in Twitter all the time, in crypto Twitter. I guess there's certain things that got like the XRP people would just like post these ridiculously just like false stories. And like, it's meant to be humorous, I guess, but it's like too close to where it's not actually humorous. It's like, dude, like this isn't funny. You're just like putting false information out every day.
Yeah.
Block the heck out of that crap.
I block a lot of pages on Twitter too. You kind of have to because there's so many people playing that game, especially now that they get actually paid for it.
Yeah, facts. Next piece I had is students are skipping internships for AI startups. So students are building AI startups this summer instead of taking internships. Bloomberg report cites accessible tools, AI tools, and tough job markets as drivers. So Polymarket posted the update highlighting a shift in student priorities. The trend draws attention amid AI boom and shrinking entry-level opportunities. Next piece, or anything that you had on that? Sorry.
No, you're good. I think that's pretty straightforward.
The next piece is Clarity Act deadline missed. So the crypto regulation bill missed the July 4th signing target. It now must pass by August 7th before Senate summer recess if it's going to be likely for it to pass this year. This will involve Congress, and obviously this aims to clarify the rules for digital assets. This is major for the crypto industry and did not happen before July 4th. Anything you want to say on that?
No, it's, I don't, where's your head with it? Do you think it gets passed before this year, before the end of it?
I guess not. With the August recess thing, I didn't really think about that part. I'm just like, I just don't understand why. Like make it happen. You know, like this isn't something that's that difficult in terms. Okay, it's difficult, but in terms of getting it done, like you're not prioritizing it enough.
Mhm.
All right, the president said he wants this to be done. What is going on, folks? Are we going to turn this into a partisan issue? They've done such a good job so far. This is why I do believe that it will be passed. It's like they've done so much to get this here. Like it's not just gonna. It will be passed at some point. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I imagine that will be sooner than later. For them to get the Genius Act across the line, that's a huge deal. So yeah, it is very difficult. Let me be clear. It's not an easy thing to do in terms of actually writing the laws, in terms of coming up with what should be in the laws, and actually getting your people across the aisle to, make concessions necessary. I do think that's a difficult thing, but we know that it's possible as they've been moving the stuff forward. And this is a time where the only time we've been able to get Congress to move forward on pushing crypto legislation in place, and it's already happened. So I don't see why it wouldn't happen.
Who do you think is impacted the most if it doesn't happen?
I guess banks are straight is one big thing. I don't know if it's like Michael Saylor. I don't know. I don't know.
Because it's been pitched as this thing that is like good for crypto, but we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I was thinking about that as you asked the question. Good question. It's like, is this really something that necessarily needs to be done? Like, not really. For things to be able to continue as they have been, you probably do need it, because otherwise, as soon as this administration is out, you're going to have massive reversals of everything that's happened. You could have that. So I don't know.
We gonna learn. What's next?
Alex Karp on American morality in wars. Palantir CEO Alex Karp claims U.S. Civil War and World War II fighters were purely moral, not economic. Karp says Lincoln fought to end slavery and upheld, an America uniquely battles for superior values, and viewers argue over Civil War causes and U.S. exceptionalism claims. So let's hear what he said, I guess. This seems like this was also kind of old.
Yeah, but thing that is crazy unique about America, whether it's, somebody from Montana, Iowa, going over to fight because they believed in America and they believed in the greater good. And there really this was a primarily moral. It's like, honestly, it's like Lincoln. This guy fought to end slavery. It was not economic. It was moral. Mm-hmm. Like, what other culture actually engaged in civil war just because it was wrong? What was happening in the South? That was the primary. I'm not, like the modern way of reading is like,
I've done that, and that's because that's probably not true. But go ahead. Sorry.
It's like, yeah, maybe, but the primary reason why Americans fought and died was moral. Primary reason why Americans fought and died in World War II was moral, and they had no tethering. Like, when you're a soldier from the North dying to fight slavery, it's not that you have, Black relatives and friends. It's because you think this is wrong. When you were over fighting the Nazis or Imperial Japan, you were doing it because you thought America was a superior way of living, and this wasn't wrong. Now you can, and then whatever one thinks about these things, no other culture does this.
You got some thoughts?
Yeah, I get why that got some pushback. I don't know, I haven't studied all of the history, but he makes a point, and I think his point actually stands, which is that you never go to war for purely moral reasons. But whatever,
Yeah, maybe there was a strong presence of, and I don't know anything, I'm not even from there, but maybe some people believed that, but was that really what was taking place? That's also why I think it'll be hard if they try to do another war where there's a cause for us to get behind. I don't know how they would do that.
Yeah, so you sell the people on some sort of a moral cause, right? But is that really why the war is happening? Probably not.
I don't know enough to know for sure, but I would definitely lean towards your line of thinking. It's just, yeah, you sell the bigger story, but even a lot of those other things that he's mentioning, it's like, how many of those were potentially false flag events too? Like, yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
I mean, yeah, I'm like World War II was purely. My thing is that world wars are so complex that like, at what point was it purely moral, and what was the morality? I don't know. I haven't studied that one enough either. I'm like, what was the morality behind World War II? Was
I
it?
guess
Oh, it
they'd
was
say Hitler.
what Germany was doing. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Well, I don't know if that was the only reason, right? Like when at what point did the U.S. get into the war? It becomes the question then.
Yeah, and
because that was way later.
And was there strong financial incentives that had to happen to conveniently be there too? So which one came first?
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, very interesting. You got a few more?
I think we got one more, two more, three more. I don't know. Trump calls himself a big crypto guy during this same press conference.
Is Bitcoin in any way going to be related to this in the future? Are there plans to put Bitcoin?
We did this one already, right?
Yeah. In that piece, he ended up saying that. So yeah. Oh yeah, Mark Andreessen made a cool tweet talking about U.S. dominance in global stocks. Mark Andreessen, the CEO, co-founder of A16Z, massive venture capital firm, he posted a 200+ year chart showing the U.S. share of world stock market capitalization. So what percentage of the global stock market is the U.S.'s share of equities? And he says that it hit 62% in 2026. He predicts it will reach 90+% if the U.S. avoids major policy mistakes. And investors and economists care because it signals America's ongoing tech and capital market lead. This chart highlights America's rise from near zero in 1800 to dominance today.
Yeah, if that continues to grow, is that a good thing for the state of the world? Because which companies would be driving that growth? It'd be probably a lot of surveillance.
Yeah, I mean, in general, definitely interesting there.
Yeah, I'm seeing some people starting to, like, I saw a guy do like a hate documentary on him the other day, and that was fascinating. That he's reached the mainstream conversation enough where people feel that there's like a demand for a video like that, which is interesting.
Next piece, Starlink phones for Canada. Former MP Ryan Williams tagged Elon Musk urging Starlink mobile service. Canada's big three telecoms own nearly all phone brands. High prices and limited competition frustrate many Canadians, and users debate if the new entrant could break the telecom oligopoly.
Yeah, Canada is the land of the oligopoly, where we are run by a few major companies, and the telecom companies are, because it's not even just that they own the direct telecom, but they're so big because they have that stranglehold over the telecom market that they infiltrate so many other things. So I believe it's Rogers that owns almost all of the sports teams here. So it's we don't have a lot of competition in this country, but I don't know if we still pay record high phone and data charges, but we used to be like one of the highest in the world. But logistically, like, that also kind of does make sense with how spread out we are, like how they'd sell it, I'd assume, because we are very condensed in terms of where we live. But if they are providing coverage for the whole country, it's probably pretty spread out. I don't know. We definitely pay a lot relative to other countries.
Yeah, that's fascinating stuff there, man. Last piece that I've got here is moving on to some memes. So if you didn't watch last night, the U.S. just lost to Belgium in the World Cup. Spencer Hakimian said, "Just in, Trump says Belgium is 2 weeks away from developing a nuclear bomb." This one banged out for him. That's pretty funny. You get 213,000 likes on that, 6.5 million views. Shout out to you, Spencer. We definitely put up a lot of your stuff. Watcher Guru says, "Just in, Jim Cramer says to buy NVIDIA stock."
Oh no, it's over.
That's no good. Let's see here. People with less than 8 followers tweeting.
Keep tweeting.
That's a very real thing right there.
Yeah.
Very
Well,
real
I'm
thing.
like that too. I only have like 1,000 followers.
I was gonna say I've definitely been there.
Yeah, I think you should still keep tweeting. Do it up.
Ship it, bro. Breaking. Trump says almost anything my kids do if they buy a truck, they have inside information. So this guy said, Americans realizing that the president of the U.S. is so corrupt that he openly admits he and his family are making money with insider trading. No, I do get it, but yeah, I probably wouldn't say it that way. Don Alt said, if I was a bad actor, I would 1, have someone launch a meme coin for me. 2, take it over to Save the Community. 3, airdrop a bunch of the supply to friends and influencers. That way they'll stay quiet when it all goes down. 4, a bunch more to my unknown side wallets, justified as airdropping it to community. 5, look like an angel. 6, cash out on the side, holding on main. 7, keep bull posting. Coin goes to 0 eventually. I'm still holding, you idiots did this. Okay, I'm still holding, you idiots did this. Why can't we have nice things? I'm losing infinite, just as you are. At least we tried. All the while, I'm laughing my way to the bank. Glad this is just a hypothetical. It would be truly evil if anyone ever did this. Well, that's exactly how they all go. So, yeah. So just keep that in mind. There's a couple of other ones. There was a lot of stuff about the World Cup last night that I thought were pretty darn funny. Because the U.S., by the way, there was like a whole thing where a guy got a red card, and so he wasn't supposed to play in the game last night at all, and he did because Trump literally came out and interfered and said that they need to reinstate him. Yeah, that actually happened. He came out and said it himself.
Get set.
So this is the USA at the World Cup. If you've ever seen the movie The Dictator,
And they let him back in.
They let him back in, bro.
That's crazy.
So this is a perfect move here. Didn't win. That's the funny part. But anyways, so I'm trying to think. There was a couple of other really funny ones, man, that I saw. But anyways, yeah. So then this one came out. I saw this one. He said, Belgian fans waking up in the morning to see that Trump has made FIFA change the rules to the team with the fewer goals wins. I think I saw one other one that was pretty funny. But yeah, no. So, that's one of the biggest things in culture that just happened over the past 48, 72 hours. Let me see if there's one more. Okay. Yep. All right, folks. I think that's all for the meme section. It's time to talk about the community. All right, folks. Last time we had a solo episode. Just me and Ben kicking back, talking, shooting it. A few comments. Let's see. Joshua Hill. Keith just exactly described what BitTensor is. The chain subsidizes AI companies, aka subnets, to create useful AI commodities and products. They don't even have to be AI companies, but that's the most popular use case so far. Holders of the native Tau token can then swap into individual subnet tokens to invest in these companies. Those companies that get more Tau in their pools from investors end up getting more emissions from the chain as well. So they're constantly looking to incentivize investors to buy their token, as well as to buy back and burn their own tokens to keep their token price going up, as well as to continue incentivizing their miners to work for them. It's an incredible design and market for innovation to be created. I don't remember talking about anything like that, but let's hear it. Take in these AI companies, which is how that could work, right? So you've got whatever digital asset it is, you're not taking custody of it. Okay, this is me trying to break down how do you turn AI credits into money, I guess. Interesting.
And then
very interesting, Joshua Hill.
Wiki said they wanted to hear about BitTensor too. Maybe we had someone that I think we found who was like a BitTensor person that we should have on.
Yeah, we would love to have BitTensor people come on. So even Joshua, if you're a BitTensor person and you've gone deep, shoot us a DM on Instagram or something. We can chat it up. Or if you know someone who we should have on, tell them to come on.
Cool.
And then how are you now? 136, he said, I heard about this 4-phase theory with new technologies as well. Unfortunately, it makes a lot of sense. It is theorized that we are heading out of phase 2, the frenzy phase, and toward phase 3, the synergy phase. Just one problem. In between the frenzy and synergy phase sits a massive reset flush out. It is very possible that the most painful times are still ahead. I hope this theory is dead wrong, but I'm aware it is a possibility. The positive news is that the reset between phase 2 and phase 3 sets you up for a beautiful opportunity if you can be patient. The final phase is maturity. Yeah, so eruption, frenzy, synergy, maturity. To whoever may read this, you are amazing. Well, that's cool. How are you now? Very good addition there. So this was us talking about, like, could we be going through the end of the 4th cycle? That's the end of like the first half of this entire thing. In terms of Bitcoin had 1 cycle, 2 cycle, 3 cycle, 4 cycle, but that's actually 1/2 of this larger, massive downturn. That's not going to happen after we had this massive bubble. And then, another 20 years from now, you see this industry take off and become the thing that was like the Amazons of the day. So that's the conversation we were having at that point. And then WikiUp ended up also saying, would love to hear your thoughts on BitTensor. So there we go. What happened to all the comments? What happened to all the comments? It says there's 12. There's only 4. Oh, okay. Phosphate, I wonder if at any point in a capitalist victory, how does one switch to I'm done to I will just preserve wealth now? Since K through 12, you've been clocking into work on the regular. How do you stop?
Do you think you'd have a hard time retiring, Keith?
I mean, I would just do things that I really love. Like making music. I had this whole conversation, so the reason I brought that up a little bit earlier too is just like the capitalist thing. Because I had a conversation with someone, poked holes in all of my thinking about it, which is very, very limited. Haven't done a lot of thinking about it or reading about it. And so I was describing to them why I like what I think is capitalism. And they were like, but you don't need capitalism to do any of those things. And then that's why when I was on the pod, I think we were talking about with Tom, as long as I can work more now to then have more time to chill later, like that's the main thing that I'm trying to do. That's what I look at the opportunity of, like, what makes capitalism work in my mind is that concept of me like using my mind to do more now so I can chill later. It's a big thing for me, at least.
No, and I think that's definitely what they sell people on. But yeah, I think that's does that, one thing I think about a lot is that it does provide that, but to like very, very, very few people. Like, so it's like, could that be more democratized with a different system? Probably, right? And then does that, like, I think a lot of people wouldn't let that happen because they did it and they'd want to be like, oh, this should be a rare thing because I did the things that made this rare.
And so this was the thing that I thought was so interesting about. So what I came to was like, you know what capitalism kind of potentially could prey on is the human being's desire for a story, for the hero's journey in particular, because you made it out of everybody else who had a chance. If everyone else had the same chance, but you made it, then you're special.
Yeah, and then people are fighting for it, right? Yeah, I think that's a big part of what it is that you would fight to maintain that.
Exactly,
because
dude.
If you got through, you are the special one. And even if you're not, a lot of people would defend it because they're like, I could be. Right. And does someone have to be special? Like, if everyone's special, then is no one special? I'm sure it's like a concern that people would have. So yeah, we should definitely dive more into that. We actually have a guest coming on pretty soon. That's pretty well all they talk about is like these systems. So
cool.
It'll be interesting to see what she has to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I just, it's so funny. I got here and just immediately met someone that was like the first thing that we kind of went down on was just that. Because I also get kind of turned off by like when people make these kinds of things their entire personality. because I'm like, I don't know. I have a thing where I'm like, it's kind of messed up, but it's like probably this acceptance of the reality that like things are just totally screwed. And that, like, I mean, I guess I look at like, okay, so what can I do to preserve myself in that system is really what my brain naturally does, rather than what does the system like because I have I've had a more defeatist attitude of like, but what am I gonna do about it? You know, besides beat the game. Right. And then I can think about that and talk about that. And I don't necessarily I don't know that I'll move any differently than that, because I do think that that's the way. In a lot of, in deep down, that's what I believe. Is like, if I'm going to have an impact, I'm going to have to beat the game first. Like, but, you know, maybe that's wrong, and maybe there's other ways of looking at this. And also I should understand the game fully and so on and so forth.
Yeah. You're also only looking back through certain definitions of games or certain rules that were deemed as possible ones too. Right. So a lot of people, like, we bring up Jeff all the time just because of the interesting things that he says. Like, we don't have a lens of analysis to think anything different than what you're saying, basically, Keith.
Right.
So it'd be a difficult thing to do, but I'm hopeful that we get to experience something like that, because yeah, there's so much energy that would fight to maintain something, even if it is broken, because we hate the unknown as humans. Like, we would rather be consistently screwed a little than have a chance of like fixing it all, but could also lose completely. Like, a lot of people are naturally like that. We're like, yeah, I'm content with being screwed a little bit for a long period of time. So it's yeah, that's all I got.
Yep.
Cool. Anything else from you?
There was just some more comments. Phosphate did say, Keith, I have a possible answer to my question on the previous episode. Who even or why even would someone orchestrate lockdown? Outcome: social isolation and growth of online social platforms, cough, cough, TikTok. Who gutted the funding that would have mitigated the pandemic? Trump. Who's friends with Trump and owns the company that just bought TikTok? Larry Ellison. Who put TikTok under legal pressure to pressure a sale to a U.S. buyer? Trump. Who's, for possibly inconceivable reasons, raising the price of gas and giving Iran periodic breathers for them to restock to prolong the conflict as long as possible, keeping gas prices and therefore the house expensive? Trump. I don't think owning TikTok is the end game, and personally in my own life, TikTok is not a big deal. But if it turns out to be a big deal to the larger population's perception of reality, then there's a line of benefits from these events that culminated as a result of the actions of two powerful people who happen to be buddy. P.S. The defense bill on the floor includes 5 sentences that get Israel into our Pentagon with the role of integrating their technology. I feel like Trey Dossier. I mean, Ben, you definitely got something there, no?
Yeah, well, we've stated on the show, that I think that TikTok was part of this plan. And I don't know how you could possibly argue that, where there's this thing that nothing like this had been out there before. It was only really in kids' hands, and then we're all locked inside. And because TikTok was the first platform where it kind of killed influencer culture. Right? It became more this whole like creator economy crap, where it's like, I'm not an influencer, I'm making a video. And so then that dropped down the stakes where people didn't care. Plus they were getting rewarded for like being kind of random. And they actually built that into the system where if you made a certain amount of videos, everyone got a viral pop. So then they got you hooked and then kept you coming back. And so it was pretty perfectly designed, right? I've given the example of how Grandpa and Nana, where they were not using something like TikTok or Instagram before, but then when Susie, who's their granddaughter, makes a video and gets 100,000 views, like 100,000 people, then they go on, and it's the most addictive thing that we've ever had in our hand before. And then now everyone's radicalized as hell. And then it also, because it's not just TikTok. Like, people zoom in too much on that. It's what TikTok required every other platform to become.
Right.
Every platform became TikTok. It was a competition for who can become the best TikTok, basically.
Totally.
So
it's
yeah,
crazy.
I think it plays a role. Will we? In our lifetime, we may find out what role that was, but probably not in the immediate future.
Love it. Phosphate said, at that stage, they just have to avoid types of bankruptcy in which they'd be forced to sell their ownership in other companies. If they owned enough companies in large enough amounts, they could just end up jumping ship and become BlackRock. Let's see what this is about.
Yeah.
They wouldn't necessarily fix the problem, right? I mean, you still are not profitable.
Especially if the sentiment around them continues to get worse. If you have to publicly disclose that's how you're operating, like that may also be a negative thing, depending on who your customer base is too.
Start them. And then they're going to do that by giving away free tokens to startups and discounting ones to large companies in order to steal their IP, innovations, and businesses. And way to fight this is to use open source software. Okay, gotcha. And 3K isn't even acceptable in many cases because not only were you stolen from, but the company who stole it will continue distributing your work. Oh, okay, from the guys that got stolen from AI. Yeah. Yep. Cool.
We appreciate you always.
Yep. Thanks for pulling up and stopping by. Oh, I guess I had a community thing because I kind of went viral in Brazil. Not viral. I didn't go viral, but a video that I reacted to went viral. And that was a pretty cool thing. So we posted this video about like the gambling epidemic. There's particularly like this betting farm, essentially, where these people are getting paid to do these games that are just designed for people to be able to bet on them. And so these people are getting paid like, minimum wage in whatever country they're in. And it's just like this weird thing that's happening. So we talked about that. And this made it to, and I only heard about this because someone who's in Brazil who I was just speaking to sent me this. They were like, yo, you're on one of our biggest media channels. Yeah. And
they actually gave you credit too, right?
Yeah, they tagged No More Wagers. So let's see how far back it is. Here it is. So yeah, it's super cool because people definitely have seen this. People that I know have been liking it. And then I was like talking to people in the streets and they were like, yo.
They noticed you?
I saw that video. They didn't really notice me, like in full transparency, but I like showed them and they're like, oh, dude, I saw that earlier today.
Yeah, that makes sense. So definitely, go show us some love on the No Dice socials if you want to support the cause and the movement there. You can go find us at nodice.app on Instagram and TikTok. And Keith has been pumping out content over there. And if you guys ever come across crazy stuff that we should react to, also feel free to let us know either in the chat, the comments, whatever, or send it to us via DM on the No Dice page. And we'll try to raise as much awareness as we possibly can because the problem is massive. And I think people are now waking up as we had forecasted. And we are attempting to build, because we're trying to solve the problem. And because it's such a complex problem with like layers of shame and guilt and a lot of different things, we felt like it had to be a product that wasn't just for gambling problems. Like it's people who have a problem with their phone, right? So you can still use No Dice if you are just trying to cut back on your phone use. And then the No Dice 45 challenge has been designed by us, but very soon you'll be able to design your own daily tasks that you want to do. Mm-hmm. So in very short order, there's not a single person who can look at me and say that this app isn't beneficial to them. So I'm excited for that. And then also the community features will be in there very soon. So if you guys want to like communicate with us more so, you'll be able to do that. We'll be in the community features within No Dice. And you can also connect with a lot of other people who are really trying to improve themselves as well. And just to think about how you could turn something that's so messed up and ruin so many lives into something awesome. That's what we're trying to do, obviously, where if you go through that challenge, I'm super confident that you'll be a lot happier and more optimistic about things. And that's what we're pushing you to do. So don't feel like you have to have a gambling problem to use No Dice. That's no longer an excuse. You can go and use it for the doom scrolling side of the challenge as well.
100%. Someone was DMing us today, actually talking about how they had a gambling problem. I ended up saying, hey, check out the app, see if it can help you at all. And he was like, it's asking you to do a workout and all, and I'm a student, so I'm good, and I'm good at my studies, and I'm good at sports. And I'm like, that's totally fine. You can use the app to block the apps that are already there. And if you already are doing all these things, then it would be really easy.
It wouldn't even be a challenge then. Cool, easy.
then now it does the exact purpose that it serves, which is to keep you from gambling.
Mm.
So anyways,
it's so funny how, because that's probably the addict talking.
Yeah, well, yes, he is. He's aware of it as well. He's even aware. So there's another level of,
yeah. So even if you don't really think that you have a problem with the relationship with your phone, we all do more than we like to admit. And I think that a big thing about No Dice 45 is that'll also illuminate that for yourself too, of like, whoa, this thing has a lot more control than it should, and it'll make that clear, and then also show you tools to keep that balance of power in place of it being a tool that works for you rather than the other way around. Are you muted?
So yeah, folks, join us for No Dice 45 if you haven't already. I'm actually going to go ahead and pull my challenges for y'all live right here on the show. Let's see what I got today, folks. I've been getting super lucky. I've only had one day where I've had to give out 5 compliments in Portuguese.
How did that go? Did you do it with like Google Translate?
I did. I was like in the store and I was like, oh, I got to figure out how to say sweater, because I was like, I like your sweater. I got to figure that out. So I did that. And that was awesome because I really did like that girl's sweater and it was sick. So I was like, went out of my way to say that to her. And then I went out that night. So that was perfect because like I just got to get them in. And then let's see, pull some challenges here. What we got. All right. I only have to say hi to 5 strangers today. I can definitely say hola. Document my journey, no gambling, 10 minutes of journaling, and 45 minutes of exercise. I'm going to do Krav Maga for the first time tonight. So that'll be my exercise. And yeah.
Love it, man. Love it. My challenges are... I have to compliment 5 strangers. No doom scrolling. I got to read, breath work, and go to the gymnase or workout. That can even be a walk, right? So if anyone's making the excuse of like, oh, I can't do an exercise, like I know you can walk. Like, no, I don't want to assume everyone can walk, but I mean, like, you can do something. If you can't walk, then maybe some other with your arms. Like, there's definitely, everyone has 45 minutes in a day. You know what I mean?
Totally, man. Totally. And appreciate you guys for joining us here today. Teo3655 says, I really enjoy the No Dice YouTube. A lot of beneficial videos, even for me, not a gambler. Robbie J. Davis says, I do too. I watch every video on No Dice. Super cool. Yes. Check out the app, folks. Seriously, do it. Check it out. And if you're enjoying it, give us a review on the App Store. That also means a lot.
It helps so much. So we've done everything we can to try to give you guys free value in there as well. So Keith's got those courses where even if you don't sign up for a plan of No Dice to get access to the full suite of features, you can still access the free course. And if you want to say thank you for Keith putting in the time and effort to do that, a great way to do that is with a 5-star on the app. Helps us out a ton. And then when you're after you go through the course, you'll probably want the app. So go ahead and then we'll see you inside there. But that's it, man. I think that we're close, man. We're close to helping a lot of people by getting this more of a well-known thing, because there's so many people that are looking for something, and I think this can be that. But we've got to make it so that they see enough people doing it, getting benefits from it to make that happen. So we're working every day to try to make that happen, and we appreciate all of your guys' support in helping in those efforts.
Totally, folks. Yeah, there's a free personal finance 101 course in the app, as well as a free course on the economics of gambling, which at the very minimum is just interesting, right? Of like how these platforms work and what they're doing in order to make money and how people are being taken advantage of. And yeah, so check it out, folks.
Cool. Well, that's everything.
iOS and Play Store. Sorry.
Yeah, we're on both. So there's absolutely zero excuses. But that's it. I better get going to the gym here.
Word, man.
And I appreciate all of y'all for tuning in. We'll see all of you lovely people on Thursday. So have an awesome rest of your week until then.
Make it the best day of your life, folks.
That's it. Be the light that you'll want to see, and we'll see all of y'all on Thursday.
Peace.
Bye-bye.